Morning everybody, welcome to Solo ReacTalk. This morning I'm going to be reacting to Star Wars vs Warhammer 40K, episode 41, Mortal Precipices, part 1, made on the A Fan With Too Much Time YouTube channel. Remember guys, if you guys want to check out my previous reaction to the previous episodes, the playlist card is going to be at the top right here. Just click on it and be able to access them. If you want to check out the original video as well as A Fan With Too Much Time's YouTube channel, the links are going to be in the description below. Yes, I'm going to be reacting to Star Wars vs Warhammer 40K episode 41, Mortal Precipices part 1, as well as Aftertalk. I'm going to combine those two videos together. And then I'm going to be reacting to Star Wars vs Warhammer 40K episode 41, Mortal Precipices part 2. Yes, so it's going to be part 1 and the after talk in one video, and then part 2 in a separate video. So it's a triple hitter from A Fan With Too Much Time. Let's see now. In part 4 of Mortal... What was it again? Mortal Pinnacle, sorry. Yes, Mortal Pinnacle. Lord Admiral Roller has support from Sebastian von Drell, Chapter Master of the Tempered Hands. He brought his fleet. Lord Tiberius of the Imperial Coalition of Sanctioned Trade Masters and Pathfinders. That's a very long title. I think I've stated this before. As well as Archmagos Lasset Gamma. Yes, these very powerful and influential fleet commanders have arrived to assist Lord Admiral Roller. However, they're only here for 1 hour. So Lord Admiral Roller has to somehow push back the victory fleet of the Galactic Republic and also help out the soldiers or personnel that are on the planet of Axon. In 1 hour. Somehow she has to pull out a miracle. So good luck to her. Good luck to the Imperium of Man side of things. In terms of the Galactic Republic, Omega and her Oracle team are, I wouldn't necessarily say they're desperate, but they are prepared to do whatever means necessary to win the game. They still think that this is a game. They still think that they're playing a simulation and it's not real. Of course, we we know that it's real. We know that people are actually dying on the battlefield, but she's none the wiser, and so is the Oracle team. So they are prepared to do some dirty, well, not really dirty, but some ugly wins. They're prepared to commit a very ugly win with the destruction of majority of the victory fleet in order to finally destroy the opponent side. So yeah, we'll just have to wait and see what happens with those plans that the Oracle team has in store. And Convia, Javona, and Barthazan have pushed forward into the Basilica, fighting against Sisters of Battle and other Imperium of Man forces. Yeah, I think Convia got really hurt by some of the sisters. He was shot up with bolter guns. So I think he's just a bit hurt. He's not dead or anything like that. He's just a bit hurt. And yeah, Javona is also helping out with her Psyker abilities. And of course, Samuel is here. I'm still wondering what is his plan. What is his end game? I know he's a spy for the Imperium of Man, but what is his objective? I still need to know about that. Hopefully we get to know more about his plan, his mission, as the episodes go by. But clearly, he has something installed for all of these forces that are attacking the Basilica. Because it's the rebels, it's the clone troops, it's the Jedi, it's the Genestealer cult. They've all concentrated themselves at the Basilica. What happens next? Come on, Samuel. What do you have in store for us? What do you have in store for us? I'm just wondering. But yeah, that is it with Mortal Pinnacle Part 4, Episode 40. Now we're continuing on with Episode 41, Mortal Precipices Part 1. Okay. 3, 2, 1, go.
Farnus awoke with a start, eyes flashing wide and swiveling in his skull.
Hey Farnus, long time no see. Long time no see. You were... I think you were stunned. I don't know if it was by Ahsoka or was it by Rex. Yeah. And now you are here, wherever this place is. It's good to see you, Farnus.
He ignored the pain that the bright lights around him pierced him with, pupils shrinking to pinpricks. Slowly, things began to come into definition. White lights, steel walls, toy soldiers. The Imperial jerked as though he had been struck with an electric current, only to find his hands and feet restrained. Even his head was restrained, his waist as well, his biceps, his shoulders. His entire body was bound down into a medical bed, strapped with thick synthetic leather that didn't give him an inch. Farnus could do little but wiggle and worm in a panic, eyes rolling from side to side. The replica he could see were mostly helmetless, sitting or laying unrestrained on other beds as they were tended to by machines. And not surgical servitors or manned pieces of equipment, but by bipedal, speaking, thinking machines.
A nightmare come to life. Abominable AI.
He screamed, eyes moving towards him at the sound, many of the clones breaking from what they were doing to stare at the conscious Imperial. And the attention made Farnus suck in his breath and cease his noise almost as quickly as he had let it loose. These were the enemy. They were the people who had killed Sergeant Norn, killed Janice, almost killed him and Nerva. The thought of her had his eyes rolling again. But no matter where they searched, there was no sign of the tech priest anywhere near him.
Don't worry, she must be fine. You know, they must be helping her medically. But yeah, don't worry, Farnus. I say that knowing where you come from, you know, in terms of the Imperium of Man. Yeah. People who get captured tend to get tortured and then killed or turned into some sort of abomination. But you're lucky that you're being captured by the Star Wars factions, or should I say by the Galactic Republic, and, you know, the Jedi are not going to torture you. Using the Force, could that be considered as torturing someone? You know, when they influence the person they've captured with the Force for them to answer questions? Because I remember in the Clone Wars, I think it was Anakin Skywalker, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Mace Windu. You know, they captured a sympathizer with the... Wait, did they capture? Yes, they captured a spy, if I'm not mistaken. You know, they captured a sympathizer to the Separatists, and then they used the Force to get information out of him. You know, they kept pressing, I don't know, his mind with the Force, and then he started saying whatever they needed to hear from him. Maybe they might do something like that to you, Farnus, but it won't kill you. Maybe. I don't know.
Instead, they found the machine that was tending to him, its cold, bright mechanical eyes staring down at him from right beside his bed. Farnus could not help himself, bound, surrounded by foes, and now under the scrutiny of the abominable intelligence itself. The very force that had caused the Emperor to rise and take control of mankind. The young guardsman pissed himself. The countless stories of horror he had been raised with all occurring to him, speaking in the voices of his most trusted elders, his companions, his friends.
Kubik, what's going on in this medical... Is it a tent? Yeah, what's happening here? There's so much blood on the floor. Oh my gosh. Get a droid to clean up this mess. Oh my gosh.
He had always known he would probably die fighting monsters like this. But he had not died. He had been captured. And the very concept of what he imagined would happen to him next was enough to make his heart falter. Enough to lose control completely.
Please be calm. Your heart rate is reaching an alarming level. If you do not calm down, I will have to administer a sedative.
the machine said, speaking Gothic. To that, Farnus felt faint, hyperventilating as the AI monstrosity reached forward with its left arm, a limb ending in no hand, but rather a large needle. The approach of the point made his chest hurt, his body shivering and trembling so much it seemed he may be having a seizure. He won't need one.
Maybe he's afraid of needles. but also he's also afraid of this abominable AI. Yeah. Oh, double whammy right there, you know. Being scared of needles and being scared of the machine. Oh.
Said a voice, a familiar voice, and the machine stopped, looking up and behind the bed Farnus was bound to.
He will faint or suffer.
The machine began to say, I'll take care of it. Go tend to Sando, he's been asking for an update on his arm. Said the voice again. Feminine, accented, familiar, and yet not.
Hey. Oh no, I forgot her name. Ahsoka. Oh my gosh. Sorry guys, I just woke up, okay? I'm still booting up in my mind. Just be patient with me. Yes, it's Ahsoka.
Where had he heard that voice before? He tried to focus on that, breathing slightly more easily as the machine nodded its head and stepped back and away, marching down and past the row of beds Farnus was a part of and leaving his sight. Calm down, said the voice from behind him, and, oddly, he felt a placidity pass through him, his breath rushing out more slowly, his heart feeling less pained as it too slowed down, though it still hammered hard in his chest. No one is going to hurt you. Just take a few deep breaths, said the hidden voice. Do you think I'm a fool? Farnus spat, struggling in his restraints again, the small calm her previous words had imparted fleeing him like birds from a struck tree. I remember your voice now. You're that Xenos, the one with the horns. I won't tell you anything. I am Farnus Eleten, Munitorum Designation 21411 of the 174th Vastellen Imperial Irregulars Infantry Division.
But Farnus, you said you're not going to tell her anything. What's this now? What's this? What are you doing?
Blurted, his eyes looking to the left and to the right, but still unable to see her. Well, okay. I thought you just said you weren't going to tell me anything.
Exactly.
The voice behind him said, bemused. Farnus blushed heatedly at that, tightening his jaw as much as he could. Listen, Farnus was it? I just want you to calm down. The alien began to say again, to which Farnus cut in. I am Farnus Eleten, Munitorum Designation 21411 of the 174th Vastellen Imperial Irregulars Infantry Division. He interjected, barely able to keep his words straight, such was the obvious fear packed within his throat. There was a pause then, Farnus' breathing continuing to rasp in and out at too rapid a pace. He felt lightheaded, the fear mixing with his struggling and hyperventilating to drain him even further of his strength.
You know, instead of tying him up to a medical bed, why don't they use that, I don't know what it's called, but in Star Wars The Clone Wars, Obi-Wan Kenobi was captured by Count Dooku. I don't know if you guys remember that part. And he was, kept in some sort of stasis field that kept him afloat, and, he couldn't move. He was just kept afloat and kept circling around. I think that would have been better for Farnus. At least he'd be able to see what's going on all around him. He would be able to calm down just a bit, because right now he's tied up everywhere on his body, and it makes it seem as if he's going to be tortured. So yeah, I'm just remembering that type of capture device that Obi-Wan Kenobi was in during Star Wars The Clone Wars. Or maybe they just don't have the luxury of such technology in a time of war like this on Axum. I don't know. But I just remember that time when Obi-Wan Kenobi was captured by Count Dooku. And, Count Dooku would try to convince Obi-Wan to join the dark side. and they were talking about Qui-Gon Jinn and everything like that. So yeah, I just remember that time when he was captured. Oh well, Farnus, good luck. Don't worry, they're not going to kill you. I think. I don't know.
Listen to me, Farnus. You need to slow your breathing down or... She began again. I am Farnus Eleten, Munitorum Designation 21411 of the 174th Vastellen Imperial Irregulars, Infantry Division! He barked out again. This time, he heard her sigh, an exasperated sound as the Xenos finally realized what he was doing. There was a 30-second pause then, one in which Farnus made no attempt, conscious or otherwise, to calm down. He felt like he was going to throw up, especially as his eyes focused on what he could see in place of trying to spot what he could not, noticing again all of the scowling, murderous clones. Listen, I only want to... The alien warrior started again, but again, Farnus did not let her get far. I am Farnus Eleten, Munitorum Designation 21411 of the 174th Vastellen Imperial Irregulars, Infantry Division.
So is this some sort of tactic used to prevent those who have captured you from interrogating you? You just keep on saying your name, your designation, your rank, the regiment you belong to. Okay.
He sighed more heavily this time, a puff of irritated frustration. Farnus Eleten, you are shaming your commander! The woman snapped out from behind him, speaking faster than he could interject. You have allowed yourself to be captured. You have soiled your uniform, and you are panicking in the face of the enemy. She continued authoritatively, her words smacking the young soldier back to a lower awareness, feeling the cooling heat from his cowardly loss of control, his fear transmuting into shame and defeat in seconds. Breathe properly or stop breathing, she added, her last scolding remark forcing him to begrudgingly obey.
Yes, ma'am.
Still shuddering, he closed his eyes deliberately, breathing in and out more slowly, forcing himself to do so. Her words echoed in his head, voiced by his own sergeant and commissar trainer, knowing it was exactly what they would say. In fact, it was more lenient than what they would have done. The sergeant would have begun cursing Farnus and his entire family, and the commissar likely would have shot him dead without a word to spare. The thoughts chastened him, reminding him of his combat breathing. He breathed in for 4 seconds, held it for 4 seconds, and then breathed out again for 4 seconds. His timing was horribly off as he counted the moments in his head, but just the attempt began to have an effect on him. I am Farnus Eleten, Munitorum Designation 21411 of the 174th Vastellen Imperial Irregulars, Infantry Division. He managed to half stutter, half breathe out. Good, I mean, better, that's better, said the voice from behind him.
But I don't think you're gonna get anywhere with this person, Ahsoka. Yeah, I don't think you're gonna get anywhere. And because you're a Xeno in his eyes, you're a Xeno alien, he's definitely not going to cooperate with you. I mean, we remember how violent and how afraid he was the first time he realized that you're not human and you are a alien creature or alien life form. He went ballistic. Like, he was prepared to kill you and probably kill all the clones as well, even though he was outnumbered. So you have a large amount of work to do here with Farnus.
Attempting to maintain her effective edge. Now, soldier, I have questions I need to ask you. Your life could well depend on the answers you give me, she said, tone softening only slightly, but remaining mostly rigid and hard. I am Farnus Eleten, Munitorum Designation 21411 of the 174th Vastellen Imperial Irregulars, Infantry Division, Farnus repeated. There was another pause then, though it did not last as long as the last one. Farnus, do you serve the motive force? She asked. Eyes still closed, he felt his face screw up in confusion. The motive force? Wasn't that a Mechanicus concept? Farnus understood the role of the Omnissiah as the Emperor and the Machine God as his greater aspect as relates to machines. But the motive force... wasn't that what tech priests thought powered their reactors and made promethium burn? Of course, he voiced none of these internal thoughts. He said something else instead. I am Farnus Eleten, Munitorum Designation 21411 of the 174th Vastellen Imperial Irregulars Infantry Division, he repeated. Another, more exasperated sigh was heard, followed by the longest pause yet. Farnus was silent, as was she, but the room was not, and he heard the murmuring and speaking of the replicate all around him. They were speaking something called Galactic Basic, of which Farnus had only managed to learn a few phrases. But that aside, they sounded so human. Some laughed, some were groaning and whining about their injuries. Many were speaking in various tones, all similar to what he had heard as a soldier among other soldiers, with one glaring, uncanny exception. All the voices sounded the same. Okay, I understand why you don't want to speak to me. You are a soldier, doing as you were trained to... She began to say from behind him. I am Farnus Eleten, Munitorum Designation 21411 of the 174th Vastellen Imperial Irregulars Infantry Division. He droned out, cutting her off. Do. She finished after he did, sounding frustrated. If you interrupt me again, I'll have to gag you, she said quickly in follow-up, and Farnus felt a spike of frustration hit him at the idea of another restraint being thrown onto him. Gritting his teeth behind his lips, he said nothing more. Like I was saying, I understand. I won't ask you to say anything, but just listen, please, she said, and the way her voice and the emotion in it sounded gave him chills. If he had not seen her corrupt alien form before, he would have thought her entirely human. How much of this could he trust? He quickly decided none of it, but he had no choice but to continue to listen, even as he swore to himself that he would not be shifted. My name is Ahsoka Tano, and I'm only here for one reason. Your people, your Imperium, are killing thousands. And I do not mean soldiers or Jedi. I mean you are killing innocent people, murdering them in a world that is not yours. People who are not harming or hurting anyone before you came. I want that to stop, and I don't want to kill you or anyone else to make it stop, she said. Farnus licked his lips, but kept his silence. Lies, he knew. But she sounded so sincere. Could any human lie this well? An alien ploy, a Xenos trick, like an insect imitating another to sneak into the hive. He would not fall for it. He knew there would be a catch. There had to be. I am a knight of the motive force. I do not want any more of it to be wasted in this fight. The more blood that is spilled needlessly, the harder it will be to stop. And if we do not stop, there might be nothing left of either of us, Republic or Empire. We do not know why you are attacking us, and I need to know why. Why is this happening? What do you know about the reason for this war?
The Atlas of Steel. That's where it began, Ahsoka. It began with the Atlas of Steel.
She asked, almost pleaded. But at her words, her obvious attempts to deceive him, he felt no compassion. Instead, a new sensation came over him. Rage. He clenched his jaw, his brow furrowing as his eyes remained tightly shut. So, you won't tell me anything? You're happy to just watch your friends and fellow soldiers die pointlessly to... She began to say. Shut up! Just shut up! Your tricks won't work! We all know why this war is happening. You know why! You did this! You did this! He bellowed, fire in his chest bursting from his lips in a vicious rebuke. Are you talking about the ship that was hyperspace rammed?
Yes.
We don't know why that happened!
And you never will. You never will. Maybe. Well, I don't think Palpatine knows that there's people investigating on that matter. Yeah.
The woman behind him insisted. It is against our laws to do that kind of thing. We are still investigating, and we would probably know more if... She continued, but again, could not finish her sentence. This isn't just about the Atlas of Steel! You fracking alien! You monster! You predator! He railed, struggling and pulling on his bonds again.
Oh my.
You are not allowed to sound so innocent! You can't pretend you don't know what you do to us! I've heard it! I've seen it! He continued. Worlds turn to worse than ashes! Death that never ends, living inside your body with no control of your mind! We've killed you! We've killed you in 1,000,000 billion worlds! And it still isn't enough for you to just leave us alone!
I think Farnus is misdirecting his anger to the wrong Xeno races in the wrong galaxy. I understand where you come from, Farnus, and I understand the types of Xeno threats you're dealing with in the Warhammer 40K galaxy, but this is not the Warhammer 40K galaxy. You know, this is the Star Wars galaxy, and the Xeno races here have done nothing to you. They've done nothing to you. So I think you've misdirected your anger at the wrong people. Or because there's Xeno races and because of your indoctrination in the Imperium of Man, any Xeno race, no matter how benevolent they may be, you know, you would clump them up all together as threats to humanity. So yeah, I understand where your anger is coming from. It's just that it's misdirected at the wrong people.
Farnus screamed. I've seen the bodies! I've seen the cities and the survivors! You keep us like cattle! You eat our minds and steal our souls! It is never enough! Never enough! You lie, betray, and backstab! Every word, every act you take is not only to destroy us, but devour us! Enslave us! Corrupt us! I've seen it! You cannot lie to me! His words grew heavier on his lips, his protestations evoking horrid memories within his mind, filling the darkness behind his closed eyes. I saw the people we pulled out of those black slavers' ships! You tortured them! You ate them while they still lived! You turned them into furniture, you sick fracks!
The Drukhari, the Dark Elder, yeah, those fuckers.
I had to kill them! I had to kill them because you wouldn't let them die! I was there in the aftermath of the razing of Celestine City! I saw it! Civilians herded into pens and arenas, made to fight against you even though you were bigger, stronger, even though they did not want to fight, even though you had already won. It just was not enough. You smashed them, you fracks, in front of their children, and then you smashed the children. You monsters! Aliens! Every one of you! Every single one! He paused then, chest heaving, panting as he caught his breath for a couple of moments.
You know what? Yeah, you know, Farnus, just let it all out. All that frustration, all that pent-up anger, that fear that you're having, just let it all out. Just shout it all out until you're tired. Yeah. Like I said before, you're misdirecting all of this anger at the wrong people. But yeah, just let it all out. Oof.
We will never stop, he breathed out. Because you will never stop. You hunted us in the darkness for thousands of years. You made us fall, made us bleed and suffer and die. Well, no more! Now we hunt you! Now we come for you! That is the gift the God Emperor gave us! He gave us power and unity and armies so that we would not have to just take it anymore! You were the predators, but now we are the hunters. Us! Mankind! Humans! We are not your cattle, or your toys, or your fracking slaves! We are your enemy! And we will spill your blood until you and everyone and everything that serves you is cast out of existence! We won't be afraid of you anymore! We hate you! We will always hate you! We will fight you to our dying breaths and beyond! We will tear at you and gouge at you like you did us! Like you hurt us! Fracking aliens! Fracking heretics! We have greatness now! We won't let you take it away! Die! Die, Xenos! Do us all a favor and just die! Die! Die!
Sedative. We need a sedative or stun gun to put him to sleep. Oh my gosh. Farnus.
The young man raged, tears streaming from his tensed, closed eyes, finally falling into relative silence as he panted more heavily and caught his breath. There was a long silence then, even most of the replicae ceasing their speaking after his tirade, and he expected that soon he would be dead. Dead, or worse. And that, either way, it would be painful. When he felt a warm hand lay over his shoulder, he flinched and tried to pull away. He expected agony to follow. He did not expect what happened next. "I'm sorry all of that has happened to you," said the voice behind him. "No, you're not! Stop lying!" he yelled back. "I am not lying. I hate to hear this. I hate to see how much you must have gone through. But you are wrong," she said firmly. "Wrong about what? I told you I've seen," he began to say. "Wrong about everything," Ahsoka snapped, cutting him off. "Wrong about the Republic. We don't want to do anything like that to anybody. For the Force's sake, there are more human senators than there are alien ones. You're wrong about your reactions to these things that have happened to you. Wrong to become the monsters you so hate. To do to everyone what they have been doing to you. You're even wrong about me being an alien." Another pause.
Oh. Okay, Ahsoka, you're not an alien. What are you? Exactly.
Are you a mutant? An aberration, then? He asked. He knew he was not supposed to like mutants any more than aliens. But he had known quite a few growing up, and he knew they were not as bad. Most were hardly bad at all.
Keep that to yourself, Farnus. Don't ever say anything like that in public. Just don't.
Oh, I don't really know, she admitted. "Could you explain to me what an abhuman is?" she asked a moment later.
Wow. At Farnus' time, well done on the voice acting there for Farnus. You know, the just the way Farnus responded to Ahsoka with that anger, that fear, that disgust, you know, that determination of him being a human and they're going to destroy all those that oppose humanity's greatness, if I could say that. Really, that was amazing, you know. That was really amazing. But I think your throat must be hurting by now. Your throat must have been hurting after that, voice acting right there. And that was amazing. That was simply amazing. I just hope that Ahsoka can find a way to get into his heart, you know. Like I said before, the citizens of the Imperium of Man have been indoctrinated ever since they were young. They've been indoctrinated into fearing the Xeno, hating the Xeno, killing the Xeno. And no matter what Xeno it may be, they're all threats to their existence. And, you know, that is a legitimate, fear or hatred in terms of Warhammer 40K and in that galaxy. But in the Star Wars galaxy, it doesn't apply here. It just doesn't apply in this galaxy. And yeah, hopefully Ahsoka can get to him, can get through to him and explain it to him that, you know, this galaxy is not like your home galaxy. But this is also just a prelude to what Ahsoka is going to face when she wants to negotiate peace with the Zectec fleet, you know, with the rest of the Imperium of Man forces. Because all of the other human beings think the same way, similar to Farnus, you know, where they see all Xeno races as a threat, as life forms that are a threat to humanity's existence. They will clump you all together with their orcs and their Eldar and their, Tau and their Tyranids and their Necrontyr. They're going to clump up everybody together with those Xeno races that they deal with in the 40K galaxy. So she has a lot of work to do. This is just a taste of what she's to face. Because all of humanity in the Imperium of Man think the same way like him. Because they were all indoctrinated just like him. So, good luck.
Rather resilient, aren't you?
Hello, Tarweiler. I'm not pleased to see you. And I'm also surprised that Quinlin Vos is still alive. I thought he would be eaten by Jakal by now, you know? So if Quinlin Vos is here, what happened to Coda?
The black-eyed Inquisitor said, drawing back and away from the heaving, bleeding body of Quinlin Vos. Vos could not respond, merely hanging from his restraints limply, his body bare from the waist up, his tan skin crisscrossed with lines of red, dripping more of his own life's blood down into a shallow pool beneath them. His mess of dreadlocks had been shaved off of his head, leaving him bald, his scalp and face not spared from the tender mercies of Tarweiler's hand.
No words left in you then. Well, maybe we are making some progress.
The shark-toothed Imperial said with a wide grin.
Go, frag yourself.
Quinlin managed to pant out weakly, prompting a laugh from Tar, who reached forward with his free hand and tilted his face up. Vos's eyelids having been cut away, leaving him no shelter, even in darkness.
Oh,
That is insane. Guys, we take blinking for granted. Just like we take breathing in and out automatically for granted. You know, blinking is it's automatic. We don't even think about it. It just happens. Now imagine that function being taken away from you. You'd go mad. Not only due to the pain of your eyelids being taken away, but the fact that you cannot blink. You're kept awake. You can't sleep. You can't think. You know, like when you are stressed or you're frustrated, you close your eyes and you try to calm down. He can't do that. He can't escape the pain. He's wide awake to it. That's insane. I find it too much time. How did you think about this? How did you think about this notion of Tarweiler ripping out his eyelids? Where did you get that from? Where did you get that idea from? Because now I'm scared of you. I'm scared of you. I am scared of you. Hey. Wow. All right. And you know, this reminds me of a movie I watched, I think it's 2 weeks ago now. It's called Unthinkable. It's a 2010 thriller action movie where an interrogator is tasked by the government to do whatever means necessary to acquire information about 3 bombs that have been set in 3 American cities by a terrorist. And the torturer or the interrogator was sanctioned by the government to do whatever means necessary to get that information. And the things I saw in that movie, I'm like, wow. I was really shocked. So Tarweiler is reminding me of the interrogator in that movie. Guys, go watch it. Unthinkable, 2010. Alright, let's continue.
There it is. That stubborn strength you still have hidden away. I must admit, you would have made a fine Inquisitor had you been born on the right side of reality.
The Imperial agent hissed venomously.
to resist me this much? I can count on one hand the amount of sentience that had managed that. You should take pride in it. I give you permission to.
He purred, his dark eyes meeting with Vos's permanently wide ones.
But you will break. I will find where you are hiding that strength sooner or later. And yank it out. Just you wait.
He said, dropping Vos's chin, allowing his head to hang limply once more.
In truth, I do not take as much pleasure when I must perform this procedure on a fellow human.
I find that so hard to believe, Tarweiler. I really find that so hard to believe.
Been looking forward to exercising my talents on that slippery blue bitch I caught earlier.
Ida Sakura, right? Yeah.
But alas, fate does twist. I wonder if she would have been as resilient. I doubt it, however. Xenos rarely manage it. So proud and arrogant, never imagining themselves falling prey to a mere human.
He mused aloud.
You are not a human.
Yeah, he's a monster. He is a monster.
The defeated Jedi rasped from beneath his copious agony. In response, the scalpel sank into his left pectoral muscle, carving down through his chest in a precise line before turning at a right angle and meeting the line of another cut which had been made before. Vos shuddered and wheezed, having lost the strength to scream hours ago.
My. When will you learn that heresies only prompt more?
The man holding the knife began to say, before there was a beeping in his pocket, forcing him to trail off. Tar slowly withdrew the knife, drawing out a pleasing whimper from the man he had sunken it into, before placing the newly bloodied implement on a tray nearby.
And like I stated before, when you experience pain, you close your eyes. You try to withstand it. He can't. He can't close his eyes. He's just, as the pain just continues to build on him, it will make you go mad. I'm surprised that Quinlin Vos is still able to speak after all that he's suffered. Wow.
And reaching down into one of his many pockets and withdrawing a communication bead, which he plugged into his ear.
Yes?
The Imperial hissed. He listened for a time then, and Vos silently hoped the moment would never end as he stared into the pooling slick of his own blood gathering on the floor beneath him. He barely had any thoughts left in his head, very nearly all of them having been stripped by the agony from his mind.
And you can't even think about anything. Like I said before, you are wide awake. You don't have a moment to yourself where you can just close your eyes and just have darkness and just think about what you want to do or what you want to formulate. You can't do any of that. You're wide awake. It's crazy. This is beyond torture. This is crushing the human spirit in Quinlin Vos.
Vos had been tortured before at the hands of the Sith, at the hands of Dooku.
That's nothing. That's child's play.
But that had been nothing compared to this. This had not merely been torture, not just pain. This had been violation of the body mind, and even soul. He coughed feebly, hoping the act would draw no more attention to him. He had been Quinlin Vos, proud and tested knight of the Jedi Order. Now he really did not know what he was. Aside from that, he was a broken thing, broken in so many ways, but not broken enough to surrender to this thing, this Inquisitor. But he did not know for how much longer that would be true. He wasn't even sure it wasn't true now. He resisted still, but did he resist because he willed it so? Or was the Inquisitor toying with him, dragging out his every agony, elongating his torture on their joint path to the inevitable?
Both can be true. Both can be true. Quinlin Vos might be the one, who's still trying to survive, who's still trying to fight off this, kind of torture from Tarweiler. But Tarweiler is also enjoying the fact that you are fighting back. He enjoys a challenge. He doesn't want anything easy or simple to obtain. He enjoys the fact that you are fighting, and he's enjoying every moment of you resisting. And he's going to find ways to hurt you even more mentally, physically, spiritually. And that's what he enjoys doing. So both statements can be true.
A trembling fear that made his every pain reignite shuddered through him as, once more, the taloned hand of Tarweiler cupped his chin ever so gently and lifted his vision up to meet the horrid Imperial's black eyes.
It seems my ship has arrived. I'll be taking you and the others with me, of course. Our game is not yet done, and I think we both know who is going to win.
The creature that called itself human said, You... Vos tried to say through torn lips, trying to curse his name, to resist, but he lost the strength to finish, making the man chuckle hideously.
Yes, I, and soon we. But let's not get ahead of ourselves.
This image is not helping me at all. It's so disturbing. And I can just imagine the mouth moving and hearing, Tarweiler speak. This image. I spent too much time. This image is disturbing. It's disturbing.
He said cruelly, letting Vos's head slump once more.
I'll be back. Just have to make some final preparations.
The Inquisitor said, turning from the dark metal room and walking up a flight of stairs, vanishing. There, in the darkness, alone at last, Vos felt his dry eyes begin to well with tears. He fought them. He truly did try.
No, don't fight them. Just cry. You need your eyeballs to be having that liquid on them, because they've been exposed to the air for so long. Guys, how long can you keep your eyes open without blinking? And when do you start feeling that pain, that burning sensation on your eyes once you've kept your eyes open for a very long time? Now imagine you don't have any eyelids. That burning sensation is continuous and even more, painful. So definitely cry, so that your tears can, come over your eyeballs, and at least there'll be some respite from that type of painful situation. Yeah. Oof.
But soon, the once mighty Jedi began to weep, his tears burning the wounds around his eyes and across his face as they slid down his chin and joined the blood beneath him. The pain he felt was so deep, and the things that man had taken from him, their absence, ached like no pain he had ever known before. The Sith, The Sith knew nothing of this. Dooku and his tortures had been child's play to this, his Force lightning having been painful, but also selfish. An expression and indulgence of the power the Count had held, but not the truest way to defeat Vos's mind. This...
And you consider that, Tar Weiler, this is his job. This is his job. This is his 9 to 5. It's not some sort of passion project like Count Dooku, using the Force lightning to torture you or using the Force to torture you in another way. No. With Tar Weiler, this is his job. He was trained to do these things. He understands the workings of human psyche or xenopsyche because he researches on how to torture people. He researches on how to, break down a life form's constitution and themselves, their self-worth, their self-esteem. He learns how to do all of these things. It's his job. He trained for this. It's not a passion project like Count Dooku or like any other Sith, that are fueled by their emotions. No. With Tar Weiler, this is just a 9 to 5.
This man was entirely different, more subtle, and more cruel by far. He wept until he felt that hand once more cup his chin, sniffing, trying to halt his tears. He had not even heard or sensed Tar Weiler's return, having intended to snuff his weakness when he heard the man coming back into the room. But as his head was tilted up, he saw a different visage through his blurry, unblinking eyes. "Oh, Master," said Ayla Secura, cradling his head with both hands and looking horrified.
It's good that you're here, Ayla. But, just take him and get out of this place as soon as possible. You don't want to tangle with Tar Weiler again. You don't want to do that.
Vos was barely recognizable, and unlike the Imperial's promise to Ayla, it seemed no visible inch of his flesh had been spared the cruel caress of the Inquisitor's knife. He had already bled so much. It was all Ayla could do to hold herself together at the sight of him. Ayla, is that really you? He managed to wheeze out on what strength he had left. Yes, Master, it is me. Hold on, I've got something here, she said, freeing one of her hands to reach down and fumble with something on her belt. No, it will catch... Vos began to mutter. Shh, save your strength, Master. Please save your strength, she insisted to him, finally finding what she was looking for and withdrawing it. Here, breathe, Master. It's Bacta. Breathe in as much as you can, said the Jedi Master, pressing a Bacta rebreather over his mouth and nose. Vos did as instructed, breathing in the blue mist that appeared from within deeply, filling his lungs with it several times until the dispenser was expended. The bleeding stopped almost at once, though he seemed to gain little strength from it, only groaning in the aftermath. I'll get you down from these chains, Ayla said with no small urgency, tossing the spent Bacta device from her hand and calling her saber into it. In 3 strikes, she had her master free, catching his collapsing body and kneeling in his blood as she cradled him down towards the ground. I'm sorry. I should have come sooner, Ayla lamented, seeing how little strength her master had left and how ravaged his body had become. Run, Ayla. Don't let him catch you. The things he will do. He tried to warn her feebly. At this, Ayla's expression tightened, and she nodded. Let's get out of here then. But I am not leaving you behind. Can you still stand? She would ask. Vos puffed in a deep breath, hands and legs fumbling, and after a moment of struggle, Ayla managed to nestle herself under his arm and help to lift him up, his feet taking over once he was high enough, though leaning on her heavily. "Oh, Master, you've lost so much blood," she said, worrying for him as she herself became coated in it.
The others
Vos wheezed.
cannot leave them.
He finished. "The other Jedi are here?" Ayla said in shock. "Where?" she asked a moment later. Quinlin used what strength he had to lift his arm, making a thumbs down sign and indicating below.
Holding cells. The ones that didn't scatter. They are down the stairs. Sub-level 9.
He managed to say. "Okay, let's go get them," said Ayla.
Alone. Not strong enough.
Vos gasped. "Don't worry about that, Master. We are not alone," said Ayla as 8 other Jedi stepped from the shadows, standing tall and ready to fight. Despite his pain and despair.
Fight what? Fight what? No. Just collect those who were imprisoned and get out. If you see Tawila, run. Run. Don't fight him. 8 Jedi is not enough. You're going to need an entire army to bring this Inquisitor down. There's no fighting here. I don't want to hear about fighting. I don't want to see anything that is related to fighting. Just get those Jedi and get out. Please.
Quinlin managed a smirk.
Good girl. Always have a plan.
Vos rasped. "Has every one of the others gone through this?" Ayla asked. Vos shook his head no.
No. I wasn't the first, but I was second. Or the third.
Ayla herself grinned at that, a vicious expression. "Then soon we will have more. Hold on tight, Master. We're going to move fast," she said.
Do it, Ayla. No pain I've suffered is above getting payback on that slug. Do me proud.
He gasped, and Ayla nodded stiffly. "Hold on tight to me, Master. Like I said, I'm about to move fast." And with that, their shapes blurred as she and the other Jedi took off at a run, matching the speed of speeder bikes as they tore off towards and then down the stairs.
Oh, guys, chilling episode. Episode 41, Mortal Precipices, Part 1 of Star Wars vs. Warhammer 40K. Chilling. And it's like night and day. You know, the questioning by Ahsoka to Farnus versus the interrogation and the torture by Tawila on Quinlin Vos. Night and day. Night and day. You know, like I said with Farnus, I understand where he's coming from in terms of his anger and his, hatred for Xeno life. It's just that it is misdirected, because the galaxy where he comes from, yes, the Xeno races there see humanity either as food to be consumed or entertainment for their own depravities, or just a resource for their survival in some sort of way. And in the Star Wars galaxy, it's not the same. It's definitely not the same. But due to their indoctrination from young ages all the way up to where they are adults, this is ingrained in them, in their society, in their culture, that all Xeno life is a threat. No matter how benevolent they may seem, it's a threat and it needs to be exterminated. And it's going to be a really hard road for Ahsoka to travel to try and change that and try to get some sort of peace between these two factions. Definitely. So yeah, good luck to Ahsoka in trying to further communicate with Farnus, because right now it seems like she's hit a very strong brick wall that's extremely high. So she'll have to find a way to bash through that wall to get to him, to get to his heart somehow. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. And then yeah, Quinlin Vos, what he has suffered, it really is just unbelievable. But what surprises me the most is that he's still having that spirit in him to fight, to keep on fighting, to not, surrender himself to Tarweiler. But Tarweiler likes that. He likes the challenge. He likes the fact that, Quinlin Vos is not giving up so easily. He's actually surprised that he's lasted this long. He's even telling him congratulations. This has never happened. Where a human being is able to survive this long, and he's even wondering whether other Xeno races could ever survive as long as he has. So yeah, Tarweiler is impressed by your tenacity, by your strength, but like I said before, this is his job. This is what he does, and he's going to further try to break you down until he wins. But luckily, Aayla Secura with her 8 Jedi allies have come to save the day, or to rescue them from this entire ordeal. And like I stated before, don't fight against Tarweiler if you should meet him. Don't. Aayla Secura, especially you, don't fight. Run as fast as you can. You'll fight him another day when you have an army, behind you. Don't fight him with 8 Jedi. It's not enough. It's definitely not enough. Yeah, wow. Mortal Precipices Part 1. Scary stuff. Scary stuff. Yeah, guys, that is it with episode 41, part 1. Now we are continuing with the after talk. Let me just get the video. It's been a long time since a fan with too much time has made a after talk video. So yeah, it's good to see that this is back. Let's see what he has to say in the after talk.
Hey there, everybody. This is a fan with too much time coming at you with an after talk.
Hello. Let me just put up the volume. Can't really hear. Okay.
I know it's been a while, but there's a good reason for that. And I'll get into it. Today I'm going to talk about quite a few things relating to this series. But we're going to begin as...
What is this game that you're playing, Farnus Triple Time? What is this game? What is it?
Canonically, or as in story mode as we can, and then gradually go down the line of topics. So one of the big things that I get from a few people is the question of an explanation for Ahsoka's abhuman status, and I've actually explained this pretty thoroughly in the comment sections, but I do keep getting the question, so I'll go ahead and do a full elucidation, at least as much as I can do, right here. So
like, is Ahsoka, having human DNA in her? Is she part human? Or is it that her species are just humanoid looking? Because they actually really do look humanoid looking, compared to other races that we've seen in the Star Wars galaxy. So yeah, I'm just wondering, is it that she's a humanoid creature or humanoid life form, or does she have human DNA mixed in her? And what was the result from that? Is it from, having children, or should I say humans, and her race? I'm not sure about their name, but did they have children, and that's why they look like that, or is it because of genetic manipulation? Yeah, I'm just wondering about that.
Yeah, Ahsoka's abhuman status. The biggest complaint I find about that is that a lot of people tell me that that Togrutas.
My gosh, what is this game? I'm sorry, Farnus, I'm distracted by this game that you're playing. Oh my gosh. Okay.
Which is Ahsoka's species, her race, that they're not classified as near humans in Star Wars. And I agree, they're not. Neither are several other extremely humanoid species. In fact, for a while, Twi'leks were not considered near human, despite always having had the capacity to literally interbreed with humans. So I'll go ahead and explain first why the near human designation for me is an extremely tertiary concern when I make this kind of judgment, and then I will explain the criteria that I use to try to more empirically judge this kind of thing, and where in the lore I source the potential and possibility for Ahsoka being a near human. So let's go ahead and start with that. Near human in Star Wars is supposed to denote a species that, as the name would suggest, is very near to humanity. And a lot of the times, this can seem extremely accurate. Zeltrons are near human.
But then again, I'm still asking, this near human concept, is it due to how they look in appearance, or is it due to their genetics, or is it due to their cultural identity, if I can say that? Yeah.
That makes sense. Chiss are near human. Makes perfect sense. In fact, the Chiss have a specified history that they were humans and simply changed to suit their environment over time. And if you wanted to say that the near human designation should only be used for beings that naturally evolved from humans to near humans without any sort of genetic augmentation, then we could begin to approach a more understandable classification that would exclude beings like the Togruta. But the problem is that the near human designation in Star Wars has been used by many authors in many settings, and it has been used extremely haphazardly, at once to refer to aliens in their stories that are humanoid, and then at other times to refer to the latter explanation of humanoid beings that are supposed to be more human-like. And the way this reads in the lore is that the near-human designation is like a political designation. It's not an actual scientific designation. It should be a scientific designation, but when you have things like the Sulistans, species like the Loan, species like the Toffs, species like the Tong, the Shi-Idu, for God's sakes, the Anzadi, when all of these species are
I don't know any of these species he's talking about. I'm not well versed in the types of species that populate the Star Wars galaxy, but yeah, okay.
included into the category of near human, and they're designated as near humans by the Republic, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. It doesn't take a very long time at staring at almost any one of the named races to notice that they are distinctly really difficult to call human, not only because their appearances and morphologies are extremely different from baseline humanity, but because they often contain powers and internal abilities such as shape-shifting that would be extremely difficult to evolve on a human being. How many years of evolution would it take for us to evolve a baseline human into a shape-shifting abomination? Well, enter the Shi'idu. And it doesn't really make any sense. It's clear to me that the only reason the Shi'idu have the near-human designation in canon is a political reason. It's political. The Shi'idu benefit. Anyone who has the near-human designation benefits greatly under the Republic compared to not having it.
Really? Wow. Human dominance in the galaxy is... It's nothing to be, overstated. It is a very important factual, political, representation, I would say.
And out of canon, it's because it simply hasn't been enforced, even in Disney canon, what near-human is supposed to precisely mean. The Anzadi, they only look human because they prey on humans. But it's pretty clear the Anzadi are not humans. They're pretty different in a numerous amount of ways. For one thing, their digestive systems, what they eat, how they eat it, and also their super ambient force abilities. They're not very... That's not something that we normally give off to humans. Now, yeah, you have some species like the Maraluca, which tend to have innate force abilities, but you'll also notice that the Maraluca, aside from lacking eyes or functioning eyes, they're largely otherwise just human force sensitives. Not so with the Anzadi. It's pretty clear that their appearance is an evolutionary trait taken to get closer to their prey. In addition to that, we have species like the Nagai and the Toffs, both classified as near humans. Both come from outside of the Star Wars galaxy. They're extragalactic. So, I mean, what is a human in this case? What is it? I mean, it's one thing for humans to exist in the Star Wars galaxy and also in our galaxy. But what does it mean if they're just near humans in every galaxy? That doesn't... I mean, at that point, I don't understand how we can actually reconcile that with our understanding of, evolution, genetics.
I wouldn't necessarily say that they were near human then. I would just say they are primates. Primate related. Aliens that have a primate background, just like we do. So I would call them... what's the word I'm looking for? It wouldn't be humanoid, maybe mammalian in some sort of way. I'm thinking about Stellaris right now. I'll think of them as mammalian in a sort of way, not humanoid. Yeah.
Just lines, blood lineages passing down. And yeah, sure, the Nagai look pretty human. Sure, they're just pale-skinned, black-haired space elves, basically. But the Toffs are giant green giants, and they eat people. It's pretty crazy. The Tong, the Tong may have evolved on the same planet as humanity, at least insofar as we understand it, but the Tongs are really clearly not a primate species. They're clearly not derived from the same humanity as, if they were actually relatives of humanity, they should look a little bit more like us. They should internally be a little bit more similar. Instead, they're extremely distinctly reptilian. I mean, the reason that Mandalorian helmets are shaped the way they are is because of how bizarrely alien the head shape of the Tong is. So, for me, when I look at these things and I realize, okay, so we can accept all of these, even the Loan, as near humans. You think that Togrutas and Twi'leks are far from near human. I mean, the Loan have more tendrils, fleshier heads, no noses really, except for like these two little holes, but no actual nose ridge. And they are very morphologically different, but they're near human, and a bunch of really near human looking species that behave extremely near human are not. So for me, the way that I reconcile that is that in the Republic, near human is a political designation. I think that makes perfect sense. I think that it helps to explain this very nicely, outside of going outside of the canon and just saying that, yeah, the near human attribution has just been literally randomly given out, and it's a spin of the dial as to whether or not it lands on you or not, because it's literally just up to any individual writer. And to give you a deeper example of that, you know, we have species that we don't even have names for who are considered near human. How does that make any sense? The city people are near human. The hill people are near human. The lurker people are near human.
Everybody's near human now.
I mean, we don't even know what most of these people looked like. We don't at all. We have no actual knowledge of their extensive history. We don't know what's... You know, the lurkers all live inside of suits and are purposefully extremely difficult to get close to. And I could go on and on, you know. This is only a little spattering of the very bizarre attribution that has been given to the near-human designation. Some of them make perfect sense, like the Hapens, you know. Some of them make perfect sense, like the Umbarans. But some of them really, really, they do not. So, with that, I hope you understand why, for me, I can't take that as genetic gospel. There are just too many examples of near humans that aren't anywhere near human. And because of that, I don't feel bound by the Star Wars definition of near human when I'm actually determining what actually has a human lineage in Star Wars. But that isn't to say that I just give it out nilly-willy, or that I just look at what looks human and designate it as human. That isn't the case at all. I have a specific process that I use for determining whether or not I believe a species will be abhuman or near human when genetically scanned by the Imperium to see if they detect any human genomes, human chromosomes, human genetic material. And it goes something like this. I observe a list of human traits that I have. The first of these human traits that I try to determine here, and it's not just human traits, but I'll go into that. So the first one is, how mammalian does this being appear to be? You know, how primate, and more importantly, how mammalian? Because we end up getting a lot of reptile monkeys in a lot of science fiction. So, you know, I observe, okay, does this species appear to have, like, human-looking skin, even if colored or patterned? Do their bodies react thermally, you know, with the hot and cold in a similar way to how humans need a special accommodation in one direction or the other? You know, how mammalian are they? And so I look at Togruta and the species Togrutas, and what I see is that their most non-mammalian features appear to be a general lack of hair, which is a little hard to verify given how, like, the animation on them is done, but I'll go ahead and say a general lack of hair, and that they have tentacles, you know, head tails. Now, I don't for one second believe that Twi'leks or Togrutas are cephalopods, and those are really the only creatures we have on the Earth that have tentacles. This is more just the case that, like, and they're not tentacles in the way that cephalopods have them. For Twi'leks, they're largely Twi'leks are terrible at war for this, but their brains sort of go into those tentacles, and then they are muscular. So there's a certain part of it. There's certain.
What? You mean in those tail head things, the head tails, they've got brain matter in them? Oh, wow. Okay.
Amount of the tentacle that's brain and a certain amount of the tentacle that's muscle that allows them to move around, even though you don't see them really do it too much. And those features aside, both Twi'leks and Togrutas appear to be warm-blooded primate analogs that are extremely analogous to mammals. They give birth to live young. They have warm blood and are able to generate their own body heat. And this is verified in various forms of the media, both through heat vision being used to track several of these beings, but also just when you observe them entering cold environments. They don't need to wear specialized equipment, they don't have cold blood, so typically they just appear very primate, and they pass that test. And you might say, oh, well, Ahsoka has, and Togrutas have more than just tentacles. They have extendable fangs, which, yes, they do, but all things considered, that's not so hard to be evolved. That's not a distinctly non-primate feature. I can easily see if evolution were to desire it, that could very easily be a part of a mammal's biospec type. And not only that, but Togrutas have horns, but mammals have horns. That's not here nor there when it comes to that, because that's just a different mammalian feature. And again, like I was saying, we have reptile monkeys, so while I do try to adhere to a primate baseline, it does get pulled around left and right, so I focus in on those mammal traits. And like I just described, to me, they seem pretty mammalian to me, just from my observations and my opinions here. Tentacles, head, tails aside. So then I go on to the next criteria, because that's enough for me from what I've seen. Definitely enough. I look at psychological profile, because it's not just enough to be a mammal or a mammalian analog to be human-like. You also have to be human-like. You have to think like a human, behave like a human. The farther you are from that, the farther you are from baseline humanity. And with Togrutas, more than almost any other of the Star Wars species, they are just extremely human. It's really difficult to actually cement down how incredibly human they are compared to other aliens. You might say, oh well, Fan, a lot of aliens are very human-like. That comes from being played by human actors and having human voice actors. And you have a point, but there is there's more contextually in the universe that makes Togruta mentality very human-like, and it's variance. On the Togruta homeworld, you have a planet where the culture is largely tribalistic. The Togruta like to move around, they're roamers, they're nomadic, and they're hunters. And they have a very interesting, if a little skewed, morality system, where they're very communal and caring for each other. However, they don't believe in caring for each other's weaknesses, and when a Togruta grows very old, they will often just walk out into the forest to become a part of the cycle of life and simply die. And you might rightly point to that and say,
yeah, we would never do something like that. We would never do something like that, no matter how old you are or how crippled you may be, or how how your mind has just become broken. We're not going to just leave you to nature so that nature can take care of you. No, it doesn't happen like that with humans. We will spend whatever means necessary to make sure that you are kept alive, that you are able to get better, because that is just a proof of our love for one another. There's no condition. There's no set condition to our love. If I love you as my child or as my partner, I love you. And it's not going to have some sort of condition that if you are hurt or if you are old or if you don't really have a proper mind, then I'm chucking you out. I'll let nature take care of you. No, it doesn't happen that way with humans. So yeah, the Togruta here are very interesting in that aspect, that they actually let their elderly go out into the wild to get eaten alive, or to have some sort of illness by being affected by the elements, or just allowing themselves just to die of old age, but in the jungle. It's very interesting.
Well, if Togruta are like that in general, if that's like an instinctual behavior, that's not a very human-like behavior. Humans don't like to watch each other die, and we like to take care of our elders. And we have a general avoidance of that kind of community. It doesn't tend to propagate hugely across the world when it comes to human cultures. Not that it doesn't exist, just that it's not as propagated. Well, now let's look at the Togruta colonies. We have Togruta colonies that are, again, very communal, but who don't do that. In fact, on the Togruta homeworld, while they are omnivorous, they largely eat meat. And this may not surprise you, given that they have extendable jaws. Rather, not jaws, fangs. However, it goes a little beyond that. They like to eat live prey. They still practice the act of bringing an animal live to the table and then killing it by sinking your teeth into it as you eat it, and that's a thing. It actually results in, because the Togruta aim, when they do this, they aim for the spinal column, and this causes the animal they're eating to have spasms, and this has led to a misconception that Togruta are venomous. They are not venomous. This is just from an aesthetic, but it's entirely untrue that they're venomous. That's very, very ubiquitous on the Togruta homeworld. Togruta anywhere else don't do this. They many times find the practice pretty barbaric. They like to eat dead meat, like most of us. They don't like to take a living animal to their plate and then bite into it, regardless of whatever size this animal is. And they actually find their own extendable fangs to be pretty neglectable and unused. And sometimes they even lose the ability to extend these fangs from disuse because they simply have no innate need to use them. It's not a part of their mentality, it's just a physical ability that they have. And you look at the Togruta colonies, and they have extremely different cultures, where they look down upon the practice of abandoning the elderly. They don't believe in it. They have extremely close familial bonds. And then you have some Togruta that actually lean into the other direction, where they're much more warrior-like. My point is that in the few instances in which we've been able to see Togruta colonies, we don't just see expansions of an existing Togruta culture or empire, we see divisions in it. Divisions and varieties that are normally reserved only for humans in the setting. It's interesting because even the Twi'leks, who are even more widespread than the Togruta, tend to have a more ubiquitous culture, which is kind of odd, but there you have it. So for me, the variance that Togruta display in the societies they create is great evidence of a very human mentality. And that's before we begin to actually compare the Togrutas we know to humans and how they behave. And the way they behave is extremely human-like. Togrutas are actually favored servants among the Empire during the Empire era, specifically because...
Really? Wow. I thought they would want to fight for freedom, but no, they want to join the Empire. Okay. Or maybe it was not out of their own free will, In order to survive, they must serve.
Because they're easy to understand, they can be incorporated very easily. It's like having a human slave or a human servant without giving them the benefit of having the human designation, which seems very much like a thing the Empire would do and propagate. You also have to remember that the Togruta are very, very apolitical when it comes to the Republic. I don't believe there's a Togruta senator, and if there is, they don't really move or shake very much. More or less just trying to keep people and slavers out of their sectors, and not very effectively, I might add. So, for me, it just seems like the Togruta get shafted by the political system, but in general, there are just so many examples of them exhibiting extremely human behaviors and so few examples of them exhibiting alien behaviors. And, to take it over to the analog again, with the Twi'leks exhibit more non-human behaviors and tendencies than the Togruta do, largely in the form of their Leku language, their tail language, head-tail language, that is to say.
Head-tail language? So what, the tails are moving around like...
which is not very well portrayed in a lot of the visual media, where you almost never see them
Yeah, you don't see them moving around. You don't. Like, you don't see Ayla Sakura's, you know, head tails moving around and making moves like this. You don't see any of that. Even in the later Star Wars live action, TV series or movies, wherever we see a Twi'leks, we don't see their head tails doing any sort of movement. They're just stuck there like that, you know.
Actually move their head tails around, but in the written media and in a lot of comics, it's made very clear that they do, and that they can communicate with each other this way, and that Twi'leks can actually suffer certain social or mental deficits by failing to communicate with other Twi'leks in this way and not being communal with others of their kind. Togruta have no such issue. They don't have a problem. The Togruta head tails and horns, by the way, you might be wondering, what are those? They're sonic devices, basically. They're hearing devices. They're evolved in place of ears that allow them to hear really well. They basically have a form of echolocation that they use through their horns that give them a form of almost precognitive movement, even without the aid of the Force, just from how incredibly precise their ability to detect sound and sonic vibrations in the air around them is. This is even part of the reason why Ahsoka, at a very young age with relatively little training, is able to duck around, dodge, and block and do all these crazy things with people, because she can use part of the Force to help her with that, and then she can actually just use her innate ability to hear things extremely keenly and locate them precisely to know when and where something is happening, even if she's not looking at it. But even that is not super overblown in her lore. But in general, the way that I see it, Togruta have an extremely, extremely human mentality. So then, I have one last big criteria that I usually need to fill out before I am willing to say that a mammalian, humanoid, human psychological...
What's wrong? Something happened. Okay. Yes, I am back. Yeah, there was something wrong with that video. I had to re-upload another one. Let us continue. Hopefully this is where I left off. I am not entirely sure. But yeah, hopefully this is where I left off. Okay, let's continue.
First of all, the Togruta are within reach of the Republic, and their planet is not difficult to reach, which means that human sleeper ships could have very easily reached Togruta Prime. Or I forget if that's the name of their homeworld. I think it is. But they could have very easily reached the Togruta homeworld without there needing to be any special explanation. It's just not that far away, and it's just not that hard to get to. In addition to that, we already know that several of these sleeper ships would attempt to augment or bring with them genetic equipment that would enable the humans that were on board that would arrive to augment themselves or their children to adapt to the local environment. Something they would need to do, because in the era of sleeper ships, you're not going to get much support from your home empire, if any ever at all. So you need to become self-sufficient, and you don't have a way of knowing for sure what the environment is going to be like when you arrive. There's an explanation right there. Sorry, losing my voice a little bit. There's an explanation right there.
Are you losing your voice due to the performance of during episode 41, part 1? You know, with Farnus. It's completely understandable.
But there's another one too. Really early in the history of the Star Wars galaxy, the entire universe was dominated by a species known as the Rakata. And the Rakata were these crazy, amphibious, antenna-eyed monsters, basically, who were dark side users, and all of their abilities are based on the dark side. And they went around and enslaved tons. They enslaved everybody. Every species they'd come across, they'd basically enslave. With like the Sith being one of the few exceptions, because the Sith were actually able to fight them off at great losses to themselves. And this is also what propelled the Sith onto the path of the dark side. It's a very interesting story. Look up King Adus if you're interested. But the point is that the favored slave of the Rakata, the slaves that you saw propagated the most, given the highest positions and used in the most places, were humans. So the Rakata took humans with them everywhere, and they used them in every role. In addition to that, in the game Knights of the Old Republic, or rather, Star Wars The Old Republic, the MMO that came after the Knights of the Old Republic 1 and 2, there is a mission where you go to a facility, a location, where there is an AI, and this AI was created by the Rakata, and it's inside of this big genetics testing facility, and it explains to you, once you reach it, that its job was to take the human baseline, essentially, and adapt it to different tasks and different, things that the Rakata would need done, just turning humans into new species so that they wouldn't need to go and enslave another specific species to get a specific thing done. And it's implied that a lot of the common quote-unquote alien species that you encounter across the galaxy were created this way. And as it's speaking to you, it is actually using a hologram projection that is in the shape of a humanoid, and that humanoid is changing all the time, and it's going from species to species.
Man, the Star Wars universe is far deeper and far more complex than just Jedi versus Sith, or the Skywalker family, or, just the current events that we're seeing right now with either the Mandalorian or, Andor, or whatever else that might be happening in our current period of Star Wars. There's still like an iceberg, like we're only seeing the tip of it, but then below there's a vast amount of information on Star Wars that could be used to make more TV shows, that could be used to make movies. Let go of the Skywalker family. Let go of Emperor Palpatine. Let go of Darth Vader. Let go of these people. We've used them too much now. And their time period. All the characters centered around their time period, we've used them enough. I think we should go deeper into the Star Wars lore. Go into the times where the Galactic Republic didn't exist, where Jedi did not exist, where the Sith were still in their infancy. I think we need to go back there.
And Togruta are part of the cycle of holograms it uses as it's talking to you. So while it doesn't actually tell you straight up that it made the Togrutas out of the human baseline species, it does heavily imply it by including the image of a Togruta in the many images it uses to represent itself. And so, to me, that sort of seals it in two different ways. Both in that the Togruta could have been part of the human sleeper ships, and that the Togruta could have been part of the Rakata genetic experiments that resulted in so many different kinds of human species existing within the Star Wars galaxy. And that more or less sums the big reasons why I classify Ahsoka and other beings that would fit these criteria as abhumans in the eyes of the Imperium. For them, it's not political, at least not yet. For them, it's just genetic scans. And can it detect human genomes? Can it detect, human genetic material inside of the being that it's scanning? And in the case of Ahsoka, it can. So, hopefully, even if you disagree with the general premise, you can understand my logic and why I swing in that direction, and why I'm not just favoring Ahsoka to give her a chance at peace, or, enabling her to have something she shouldn't have. I think that my criteria for this is rather logical, and I try to keep it logical. I do believe that I think it makes a lot of sense. That's what I mean to say. And with that, I'll go ahead and move on to the next topic of this aftertalk. So, another question that I see coming up ever since the last episode, and I've tried to address it a few times, and even Old Man Reacts has actually read the comments and read the service record. But a lot of people seem to think that Farnus is more of a veteran Farnus, who gave the speech to Ahsoka, that he's more of a veteran than he actually is. Farnus is, by the standards of the Imperial Guard, fairly green. Now, to be fair, a lot of people don't survive being green, but he is kind of in that category. I say this because Farnus has only been in a single combat engagement prior to the big jump. So the Battle of Axum is actually his second combat engagement. And the one he was in before was not actually that horrific or long-lasting. It took I want to say a little under a week for his regiment to secure total victory. And I'll go ahead and explain that in a second, but you might be saying, but Fan, he talks about all the things he's seen, and he's clearly seen some things from some pretty horrific Xenos. And yes, he has. I'll go ahead and explain that now. So, Farnus has been part of mostly recovery operations. And this is because of two things that ended up happening early in Farnus' career. And it's that the Vastellen Irregulars, the regiment that he's with, they arrived late, basically. They were called, in Farnus' very first deployment, they were called to repel an orc invasion from an agri-world. And they arrived late at that agri-world. And all they could do is see what was left behind. And I don't even mean that they arrived late and the orcs had already moved on, because as we know, with the way that orc spores work, you would still find some sort of orcoid life forms down there, unless you had arrived literally immediately after most, if not all, the orcs left. That's not exactly what happened. The battle went on, other forces answered the call, and the Vastellen Irregulars arrived too late to help in the fighting, so they served in recovery and reconstruction positions instead, until they were reassigned to other battlefields.
And so he saw the aftermath of all of these atrocities committed by the orcs, and also like with the Dark Elder, probably his regiment didn't arrive in time to save the civilians aboard the Dark Elder vessel, and he saw, what has become of the human captives as they were created into furniture, or others were eaten alive. Yeah.
Farnus was deployed there, and he spent about a week or two on that agri-world. Yeah, I'm going to say about 2 weeks on that agri-world, helping with recovery positions before they were called off to, another orc battlefront. And they arrived there, and again they arrived too late. A bit later, in fact, than they did in the previous instance. And that happens. Warp travel's a thing. Not only that, but there's internal corruption in the Imperium that sometimes prevents things from getting off as good as they should. So they arrived at a hive city that was named Celestine City. And there at Celestine City, Farnus saw, again, the aftermaths of an orc invasion, where the orcs had actually razed Celestine City prior to being driven off by the Skywatch, who arrived shortly afterwards, but not in time to save the city by and large. There were plenty of survivors, but not nearly as many as should be from a hive city, and Farnus got to see firsthand why. And of course the reason why is because orcs like to smash, and they are not... Orcs are in no way kind to civilians. You'd think that they'd at least...
They know nothing of non-combatants. They know nothing of that. Either you fight, or you're just a food source or something to be used as a slave. Really, there is no such thing as a non-combatant to them. There's no civilians. They don't exist. Not even in their vocabulary, probably, does a non-combatant exist. Really, it's either you fight or you die, or you're being used until you die. Yeah.
Ignore them since they're not very fighty, but no, that is not how orcs deal with non-fighty things. As any Gretchen will tell you, they bully and beat them into oblivion. This is why the orcs do take slaves, but the slaves don't last very long. They chew through their slaves very, very quickly, because they just beat them to death, generally speaking. Orcs are extremely violent by supreme nature, and because of that, nothing that can't take...
Trained hunting beast. Okay.
take orc feedings on a consistent basis can survive being around orcs for very long. So those were two instances in which Farnus' the Vastellen regulars arrived too late. In the next instance, the Farnus was technically in battle, but he didn't actually do any fighting. His ship did.
A fan with too much time. What is that? Is that a machete? I knew. I was right to be worried about you. I knew it. When I heard about what happened to Quinlin Vos and his eyelids, I just knew no, this is scary. Now you've just confirmed it. Where are you taking a machete? Huh? Or maybe you live in a rural setting. Okay, then I understand, because criminals like to take advantage of rural settings. Police stations are very far away. Other forms of community centers or even a small town could be far away from your location. Yeah, you might be living in the rural areas. If you're living in the suburbs, I don't understand why you should be carrying a machete. So yeah, definitely it has to be a rural setting. Yeah.
So the ship that was carrying his regiment got into combat and was called into an interception of a bunch of shadow pirates, which are actually a part of a Drukhari warband. And while it was a little scary for Farnus to be in a ship that was in battle and he was kind of unable to do anything about it, he ultimately didn't do anything about it, and the battle ended. It ultimately ended once the Crimson Razors actually arrived, and the Crimson Razors executed some pretty clever maneuvers using aspects of their fleet tactics to board the Drukhari raiding vessels. And then once they actually got on board, the Crimson Razors ran through those raiding vessels and killed all the Drukhari pirates, and basically made them relatively safe to recover. So, since these were Drukhari slavers, and they had slaves on board the ships, and the Crimson Razors are not about to take a bunch of civilians onto their ships, especially since the Crimson Razors, more than most chapters, are constantly leaping from one engagement to the next in like a frenzied way, they left the recovery efforts to the Imperial Guard that were there. So Farnus boarded this Drukhari slaving vessel with the intention, or the mission rather, of recovering the slaves. And they did. And, the slaves that were recently recovered were relatively unscarred. I mean, nobody gets captured by the Drukhari and doesn't get traumatized, even if it's like for fucking an hour. But, there were those who had only been there for a few days. And then there were those who had been there for a few months. And then there were the rest. And the rest included the humans that the Drukhari ate. And it also included the humans that the Drukhari tormented. And specifically turned into furniture. Which, if you didn't know, Dark Eldar, a.k.a. the Drukhari, they do that. They turn you into living, moaning, eternally alive furniture. And they will actually extend your damned life for hundreds of years, for as long as they can.
I'm wondering about the process of making humans into furniture. Like how? How does that happen exactly? Disturbing.
Enjoying the fact that you have to live through that and become this thing that they literally sit or rest upon or even shit on. They're that kind of alien, and they're not very nice. And they actually look pretty human, though, referencing my earlier Critetia, the Drukhari and the Eldar in general would fail to pass the second test pretty spectacularly. Their mentality is extremely alien and extremely different. Even when I try to phrase them as being more sympathetic or similar to humans, they have to be very different because they just are. They're very alien. Excuse me. So, Farnus, he essentially, he saw the aftermath of what the Drukhari did to those people. And he was tasked with recovering those who could be recovered and giving the Emperor's mercy to those who could not. And he had to do that. And that was actually the first time that Farnus got to fire his weapon in the line of duty on the field, so to speak. And it was to kill the human survivors who were not really surviving, but rather being dragged through a living hell. So there you go. That's how he got those experiences. After that, Farnus was part of an assault on a discovered Rakghoul lunar outpost. But it was an outpost. When his regiment arrived, they didn't even have to wait for Space Marine support or any specialty units because they simply outnumbered and outgunned these previously hidden Rakghouls by so much that they were basically able to engage them safely at range and blow them away in the course of a week. And the week was just mostly like the fighting was largely done in the first 2 to 3 days of the actual arrival of the Astra Militarum, with the rest of the week spent cleaning up and mopping up what was there and scuttling the alien base, which, by the way, they didn't keep the Drukhari ships once they rescued the humans out of them. They scuttled them, naturally. So,
I mean, wouldn't the Mechanicus of Mars, want these ships for, research purposes? Anyways.
So, these are the things that Farnus has seen that lead him to believe that all the Imperial propaganda he's heard in his entire life, and the religious propaganda, which is very much interwoven in the same thing, that it all must be real. That every horrific thing that the Imperium has told him about aliens must be real, because he's frankly seen worse than what they typically tell them. So what his tirade was about was like 3 parts what he had seen, and 1 part everything he's heard being validated by it. And that's why Farnus appears to have this impressive service record that's not actually that impressive. It's just in the line of duty as an Imperial Guardsman, even when you're doing things that are pretty boring, unless you're actually stationed to guard a place that isn't being attacked, you're going to see the works of the enemy in one way or another. And it's funny because he actually hasn't seen very much of what heretics can do.
I've just been researching on this Rakghoul species that Athanasius Time is talking about. Yeah, no, these things are disgusting. These things are disgusting. The Rakghoul are vicious Xenos, murderers, and relatively new threat within the Coronas expanse of the halo stars adjacent to the Claxis sector. Yeah. I'm just seeing the images of these things. They are disgusting. They are revolting. They're a nightmare. They gotta go. They gotta go. I mean, look at this thing. What is that? My gosh.
As I've stated in previous videos, the Zektek sector is actually pretty unbothered by chaos by and large, especially, and when I say that, I mean especially Space Marine war bands. It's very hard for them to get into the Zektek sector, and there's not much there for them. This is actually part of the reason why the Skywatch, more the Skywatch than the Crimson Razors, because the Crimson Razors have taken exoduses outside of the Zektek sector for extended periods of time to join with other kinds of crusades, whereas the Skywatch has remained very much a local chapter. But the Skywatch in particular, while they're really good at fighting a ton of things, especially Eldar and other aliens, they actually lack in their capacity to fight against heretics, particularly Space Marine heretics, Space Marine traitors. They're not used to fighting other Space Marines, and they wouldn't do so well fighting other Space Marines if they had to, just because they are extremely unaccustomed to it. It's not a thing. Obviously they drill for it and they train for it, but they don't have a lot of history with it, and they don't have a lot of practical experience with it. So there you go, and that about explains Farnus' service record. So another big complaint that I get a lot, like a demoralizing amount, is that Axum is taking too long, and I feel you, because I never actually imagined that it would take this long. I have an outline for the entire plot. I just didn't. I'm terrible at measuring out how long different segments in the outline will actually take when I begin to flesh them out, and so Axum has it has dragged on.
Well, In terms of Axum, Axum has a lot of characters. There's a lot of characters that are on Axum right now, currently. There are a lot of characters that are orbiting, well, that are fighting in space, orbiting the planet right now. A lot of the major characters that we know are on Axum. And the battlefield of Axum is, littered with all of these battles and very important characters that are centered around in these battles. So it's understandable that, why we are still here on Axum. I mean, I think there's only General Grievous that is not on Axum right now. And there is another chapter, I forgot their names right now. It's not the Tempered Hands. It's another chapter that's also involved on other planets that are, nowhere near close to Axum. So there aren't that many characters or organizations that are I can't say important enough, but their storylines are not really, nothing really exciting is happening there right now compared to what's happening on Axum. That Axum is ground zero. Axum is where the action is, where the characters are, where the concentration of power and influence throughout the entire galaxy is based right now. They are fighting for that planet. So, it's understandable why we are still stuck with Axum. At least that's how I see it. Yeah.
Much longer than I had initially intended it to. And I'm sorry about that. I am. That isn't to say that, that isn't to mean or say that that everything that's happened so far hasn't been planned. It has been. Even our little chaos guy that people aren't a big fan of, the heretic of the fivefold path.
Look, it's not that I'm not a fan of him. I just want him to die. Okay? I want him to die as soon as possible. It's not that I don't like him. He is an interesting character, very powerful character, but he has to go. He has to go. Like Javona, they have to go. Okay? They have to go. I don't know how they're going to die, but I am patiently waiting for that day to come. Javona and the tenfold path guy, what's his name again? I forgot his name. I'll have to look it up, in my book. But yeah, he has to go. He's just too dangerous. He's just too dangerous. But since Tarweiler is returning to his ship, maybe he'll be able to put a stop to him. Permanently this time. Maybe. Crossing fingers.
He was planned to be in there. And I gave him his own episode because he didn't really fit in with the others. And I didn't want to cram him into another chapter. But he's supposed to be there. And while he's not very influential for the Battle of Axum itself, he's extremely influential for the things that come after. And I've been suggested by several people that I should have never introduced him, or that if I was going to introduce him, I should have introduced him in a flashback later. And the problem with flashbacks is that I don't really like flashbacks. Too often it is the case that flashbacks are used in media in order to inject into history something that didn't exist there before. Now, not always, not always, but many times it is. And I'm not a very big fan of using flashbacks. I don't.
Yeah, here he is, the Heresiarch of Securas. I think that's how you pronounce it. I didn't write down his name, though. What was his name? I see the tenfold path, five-fingered hand, but I didn't. Yeah, I think his name is Heresiarch. Yeah, he's got to go. He's got to go. Someone has to kill him. Okay? Or maybe he has to be jettisoned into space. I don't know how. I don't know who. Maybe the Inquisitor with her custodian. Maybe they can kill him. But he's got to go. He's just too dangerous.
I really like flashbacks. The timetable for everything is already kind of messy in that it's hard to keep track because there's so many perspectives. So for me, adding flashbacks adds a complication I don't need. And it also introduces the element of doubt into the audience, potentially, as to whether or not this was always planned. Was he always supposed to be here? Am I adding something that is now being added versus was there organically and deserves to be there fully on its own merit? And it's important that people know that he was here and that he was part of this and that he was always supposed to be there, at least for me. But yeah, so I wanted to explain Axum's length a little bit because I was a little shocked myself by how long it's taking, but it makes sense in retrospect. And the reason it makes sense is because it's not like maybe I've made a mistake by numbering my episodes the way I do, but Axum is not one story. Although it is a bunch of intertwined stories, it is indeed many different stories. And I've seen people suggesting that like 2 or 3 days have passed on Axum. That's not the case.
Like I finished too much time is saying it's not the case that 2 or 3 days have passed. Remember that we are looking at the perspective of different characters, all at the same time on the same planet, in the same time zone, if I can say that. So I don't think 2 or 3 days have passed. Oh, because if that had occurred, right, Farnus time would have told us that. You know, he would have had like a little prompt on the screen saying 2 days later or 3 days later. No, he hasn't done anything like that. Everything is happening in that same time, the moment the Galactic Republic began their assault on the facilities belonging to the Imperium of Man. We've been going from that day, and it has just been continuing. You know, and we've been seeing the perspective of different factions within the different forces of on the battlefield, whether they're part of the Imperium of Man or whether they're part of the Galactic Republic. And you also have to account for those who are in space as well, because this entire operation happened simultaneously. It wasn't a process of first day they land, second day they attack, third day they attack in space, you know, fifth day or fourth day they take over one of the vessels belonging to the Imperium of Man or to the Separatists. You know, everything happened, or everything is happening all on the same day on Axum. That's how I understand it.
Axum has been not going on for that long at all. The problem is, let's just say, for the sake of argument, this is not for the sake of canon, for the sake of argument, that Axum has taken 8 hours, okay? So that's 8 hours from Ahsoka's perspective. That's 8 hours from Anakin's perspective. That's 8 hours from Sando's perspective. That's 8 hours from Lazarus' perspective. That's 8 hours from Mace Windu's perspective. That's 8 hours from Aayla Secura's perspective. You see what I'm getting at, you know?
Yes, definitely. I understand that.
Now, when you begin to add all these 8 hours together, you get well over 24 hours, which is what ends up feeling like why Axum is going for so long, because a lot of the things that are happening simultaneously. They're happening at the same time. And because of that, what's being depicted feels like it's taking really long. You know, another 8 hours for Farnus, you know, another 8 hours for Samael, another 8 hours for Combier.
Because, you know, like I stated before, maybe because Farnus time hasn't really shown us a prompt information saying that 8 hours have passed or 2 hours have passed, you know, for the different characters or the different battlefields. He hasn't really shown us any of that. So people will come up with their own assumptions to assume that days have passed by, when in actual fact we're still on that same very day when the clone troops began their assault on Axum. Yeah.
You know, things like that, depending on how I've split up their viewpoints, you end up getting re-renditions of the same amount of time passing, which gives you the impression that a lot more time is passing than has not. Now, that's not to say that the Battle of Axum has not been taking a long time, and that a lot of hours haven't passed. But it's not 2 days, it's not 3 days, it's not a week like some people have said. It really is that it's just been a continuous fight. This is part of the reason why Aayla is so exhausted, but why she's not done yet. Because it's been essentially like a day, maybe less, maybe a little more, but it hasn't been more than that.
What are you climbing here? If I too much time. What is this? A mountain? A little hill? A cliff? What are you doing?
It's just been very intense, continuous fighting, and you've been getting tons and tons of perspectives from it. And if I were to actually cut these perspectives up, which may not work super well because they're also very intertwined, but if I were to cut them up, you would realize that I've been writing like 3, 4, maybe 5 books at the same time. Like just in the amount of people that are involved.
That's crazy. That's crazy. That's a lot of work.
Over this one event. And I don't feel sorry about that because it's doing justice to each of their viewpoints, in my opinion. But I am sorry that I didn't foresee the effect that would have and warn you guys adequately about it. And no, you actually, like, I'll say this. It's going to be very rare that all of the main characters, it really is like all of them, with like the exception of Caiaphas Cain and Boba Fett and stuff like that, and, you know, General Grievous, which also they've been included into the narrative, which extends the time. But that aside, aside from that, it's going to be extremely rare for you to actually see this many viewpoint characters all in one place. That's part of what's made, it's actually the predominant reason as to what's made Axum take so incredibly long. It's been like 4, 5, 6 books of character point of view, all concentrated into one narrative. It's part of the reason why I chop things up, and it's part of the reason why people complain that, oh, I really liked this part, and now I'm going to this part, and I'm not so psyched about this part, but now I'm going back to this part. And it's like, yeah, it's because I'm chopping it up because it's so many different character viewpoints. And maybe I made a mistake in doing that, you know, I don't know.
I don't think you did. I don't think you did make a mistake doing that, because other TV shows do the same thing. Other TV shows also focus on particular characters for that short amount of time, maybe like 10 minutes, and then we head over to another continent, and then we focus on the characters in that continent, and then we head over to an island, and then we focus on the characters on that island. You know, it's not just that we're focusing on the main characters that we like in those TV shows that, you know, the duration of the entire episode is based on. There's other people, there's other situations happening, and time is also allocated to them. Yeah.
It's sort of the way that George R.R. Martin does it, and he has a...
Like, especially when there's so many characters. When there's so many characters, you can't just focus on one particular storyline and finish it to the end and neglect all the other characters that are also based in the show. You know, it's not like... okay, for example, it's not like Star Trek Voyager or Star Trek Enterprise or Star Trek Generations or Star Trek Deep Space Nine, you know, where all of these characters are in one place. It's the starship, whether it's Enterprise, whether it's Voyager, whether it's Deep Space Nine, or whether it's Enterprise from the, what year was it? 21st, 22nd, 23rd century? I can't remember. But, you know, all of these main characters are all based in one ship. There's nobody else to focus on. So you focus on those characters that are in the ship from beginning to end. But then when it comes to, for example, Game of Thrones, there are characters, spread across 2 continents. You have characters in Westeros, more than 7 of them. You have characters in Essos, more than 4, I think, around 4, maybe 5 characters. And then, of course, you also have to account the dragons as well as characters in their own right. So you have to allocate time for pieces of storylines within one episode. So A Fan Stream of Time is also doing the same thing here. He cannot neglect the other characters. We cannot just be introduced to them and then they must be left behind because we want to focus on the storylines that seem to have more interest or more action-packed, storyline in them. There's other characters that have been introduced, and they must also have their own screen time, so that we don't forget them. Because then, why are they there? What's the purpose of them being there if we don't have a time slot allocated to them as well?
A very similar thing, but even for George R.R. Martin, it's rare that so many of his characters are actually in the same city in the same battle. It does happen sometimes, and then you see a very similar effect, but not as often. So that is part of what's exacerbating the length of Axum, is that I have almost every main character in the entire universe here. And that's me cutting things. I've already been cutting things. There was supposed to be a lot more of Palpatine and what he's doing, because he's in the fleet battle. He's actually aboard his own custom Star Destroyer in the fleet battle that you're seeing. And he's actually he's supposed to be performing some battle meditation. I had an entire chapter written out for him, but after I got a lot of flack for the Plo Koon bit, and I got a lot of flack for a lot of flack for the naval fighting bits, from people.
People are complaining about the naval battles? Seriously? Do you guys not watch Star Wars? Do you guys not, Okay, I don't understand. I don't understand. Because I like the space battles. I like the conflict in space, ship-to-ship battles, the strategies being used by the different factions. I like that stuff. But okay.
I decided to go ahead and cut back on that for the sake of the audience, because people didn't seem to be enjoying it. And I'm here to write an enjoyable story. I said it at the very beginning of everything, that it's a good story, and a good story has to be enjoyable. It can't, or appreciable. It can't be bad. So I don't want to let the audience necessarily dictate everything that I do. But that doesn't mean that I don't listen to you guys, and I'm not affected by what is said to me en masse. And I'll say this. You may not see as much criticism in the comment sections as you expect. That's because all the criticisms that I get where people curse at me occasionally imply death threats, which whatever, man.
What the hell? No, man. Guys, we can't do that to people. We can't be sending them death threats and saying such bad words and terrible words to them because we don't like what they're doing, on their project. This is his project. If you're not satisfied or if you're not happy with it, go do your own. Why do you have to say such words to him? And let me also say this. I've also gone through something similar, with some comments. I don't waste time. The moment I see that your comment is, it's just you swearing at me, or you're demeaning me, or you're saying terrible words to me, I'm blocking you out. Or if you're saying something and it's not tantamount to me wanting to block you, I'm just going to ignore you. I'll let other people see the type of person you are. I'm not going to waste my time with you. But yes, I've also had comments from people, who just want to fight with me. I don't understand why. Why do you have to say such terrible words to me? Or why do you have to say such terrible words to a fan with too much time? Like, there's no reason for you to do any of that. That nonsense. Acting like a child. And you're probably even older than me. Or you're older than a fan with too much time, and yet here you are acting like this. Embarrassing. Yeah, a fan with too much time. If you see comments like this, please just block them. Block them as soon as possible. Don't waste time giving them a chance to correct themselves, because they're not going to do it. They're just going to take further advantage of you. I've experienced that myself, and I'm not going to put myself into that position again. Nah.
You know, when people are really, really nasty, and you can actually see some examples, because I try not to. I try really, really hard not to ban anyone, not to remove comments. And
No, do it. Do it, especially with those that, you know, just say such terrible things to you. You gotta block them. You gotta put them away. You gotta delete them. Because you don't want that type of atmosphere to be hanging around your comment section. You don't want people to say, oh, okay, since Farnus Time is allowing this, on his comment section, let me also add in my words to show him how I feel about his work in a very vulgar manner.
I try really hard, and I give people multiple chances to be civil. But a lot of people aren't civil. They are not. And I remove those comments because I don't want to endorse or encourage that kind of discourse, especially towards me, because it hurts my feelings, makes me feel bad, ruins my day, leaves me feeling weak and unwilling to continue. And I have to discourage that even within myself. So if you don't see as much as you might think should be there, know that I've already removed all of the worst ones, the ones that are voiced most uncivilly or with a lot of vulgarity or just inappropriate behavior. My whole point is just that there's a reason why the length of Axiom is so long, and it's because there are so many main characters here, just so many of them. And you know, I had planned to go back to Anakin for a minute now, but people don't like me to split up so much. So I'm gonna go ahead and take care of Axiom as much as I can before Anakin necessarily or unnecessarily or whatever may happen gets involved directly with it, if he even does. And before I go back to Anakin to go ahead and show you what's going on with him, which is, you guys, I think you're gonna like it. I hope you like it. But my whole point is just that's why you haven't really seen Anakin. I'm trying to nail down Axiom. There's some people who complain that that the knight, that I built up the knight for so much, but then it was just destroyed. And the knight saved the
guys. The knight saved the, what was her name again? The Sister Ordain, right? I think that's her. Is that her title? I just can't remember her name, but she's the lady who had the Tabahayiv. She saved the Canoness Superior, Nerva, with the Imperial Knight. And even before that, the Imperial Knight was striding into battle. Of course, I don't think a fan with too much time told us about what the Imperial Knight was doing exactly. But at that moment, when the Separatist vessel was crash landing on the planet, Nerva defended the Canoness Superior with the Imperial Knight. I mean, that's doing something there. That's doing something really, really serious right there. But okay, people have their opinions.
Saved Ishtara Ordain. Without the knight being there, Ishtara
Ordain. Thank you. Ishtara Ordain. Okay.
Ordain would be killed. Without the knight being there, Farnus and Ahsoka would never have met. Nerva would never have been recovered by the Republic. And in addition to that, I was sort of showing that Nerva is this, she's a princeps. And to show that, I didn't want to make it a small deal. I wanted it to be a big deal. And we don't really get a lot of views in canon about what it's like for the Mechanicus to interface with things like Titans and Knights and things like that. So I wanted to make that elucidating and entertaining and to give you a close-up view of what that process is like and what it's like when something is done recklessly and wrong, but by a will that is so enormous it cannot be suborned, which is what was happening with Nerva and the AI and the ghost pilots and whatnot. And I see that wasn't by and large that wasn't appreciated by the audience, which I learned a lot of lessons from. You know, I definitely will adjust my writing style for that. But that was the reason why I did that, and it's not to say that that the knight wasn't incredibly influential in the battle. And you saw that for the brief period of time, relatively brief, that the knight was involved in the battle, that she did do a lot, and she did raise morale, and she did help fight everything and push back the Republic advance. But when it came down to, because she was supposed to have another battle scene before the ship came down, but people were already really complaining about the length of things, and ultimately, what would there have... I mean, I showed what she was doing. I showed the effect that the night weaponry had on these Juggernaut tanks, and any more that I would have added would have just been fight scene. You know, fight scene that you can imply would be there. You can imply that she's doing these things. It wouldn't have actually shown you anything new. And a lot of people are telling me to cut down the fight scenes and to not show us things that are assumed already. And to...
So they want you to cut down the fight scenes. They want you to cut down the naval battles. What are we going to be left with in Star Wars versus Warhammer 40K? Huh? What are we going to be left with, guys? If you guys want him to reduce the fight scenes, reduce the naval battles, then what? Are we going to have talk non-jitsu? Where everybody is just talking until they're exhausted of talking? We need the fights. We need the space battles. And of course, yes, we need the talking as well. All three parts are required to make Star Wars versus Warhammer 40K epic. That's what I think.
Let's get past those things. And so I thought I was doing well by that advice when I decided to cut out the extra battle scene for the night, only for that to be revealed to be a very unpopular move on my part, which I'm sorry about. I try to do my best, you know. I do. It's hard to predict sometimes what will be hit and what will be missed, and I'm just trying to adhere as much to the points on my diagram here, without compromising too much. But already I've cut a lot to try to save time, and I thought that would be a safe thing to cut, and it was not. And I'm sorry about that. But in any case, without going on too much about that, the whole point is just that Axum has a ton of point of view characters, and I wanted to show everybody that. And as for Sando, a lot of people are not big fans of Sando. You know,
Sando hasn't had enough time on screen for us to hate him. Who's hating him? Who's hating Sando? What has he done for you to hate him exactly? We haven't had enough time with him for anyone to come to that conclusion.
Sando is the clone perspective. You know, he showed us what was happening with Delta Squad. He gave you a close-up of what it was like for the clones to be fighting against the Sororitas and against the Imperial soldiers in general. And he also showed you what the lethal edge of the clones is like. You know, I couldn't really do that with Rex. He wasn't in a position to do it. And I felt that I owed it. You know, my whole, one of the big things I do here is I try to be fair to both sides, and I try to show the encounters for both sides and the reactions for both sides. You know, a lot of people say that a huge part of what they enjoy about the series is the reactions both sides have to each other. And Sando was a huge part of that, and the things that he observed were a huge part of that. But it wasn't. But Sando also was not super well beloved by the fans. So you'll notice that he gets much less screen time now, and that's fine. Sando can go ahead and sit in the back now. But in any case, this is why Axum is taking so long. Tons of point of view characters. I'll try not to add any more. I don't think, you know, I'm looking at my diagram here, and I don't think I'm adding any more. In fact, I think that some will begin to fall away pretty soon. But that is more or less what was going on insofar as that. And I hope that this explanation makes sense to you and explains why so much time seems to have passed, even if that much time hasn't passed, and why it's taken kind of close to 3 years for me to get this far in the Axum saga. And part of it too is that that I don't really get paid to do this. I have some Patreons who very generously help me out and help feed me for the work that I do, but there aren't too many of them. And if you want to join, if you want to be a Patreon and help me out with my expenses and with getting my work done in general, then the link is in the description of every single one of the videos that I release. So you can always go down there and donate $1 or $2 to me if you feel like I've deserved it. But aside from that, it's just that I have to break from it to do normal work. I have to get other things done, and I have aspirations of my own. I have original series and original comics of my own that I want to be successful. So while I definitely do want to finish this, sometimes I feel like I'm being forced to choose between working on Star Wars versus Warhammer 40K and literally anything else that might profit my life or benefit my own original works, and sometimes I just can't do that.
As he's talking about this, it also reminds me of what I'm kind of going through as well, with some people who are requesting that I should react to a particular video, right? I have no issue. I have no issue in adhering to your request for me to react to a particular video. All I'm saying is that I need to find the time to do it. I have other responsibilities. I'm not here the whole day. I'm not here the whole day, to react to videos. So it will take me time to get to, your request. But there are some people who are so impatient, who will continue to send you a message saying, when is it coming? When is it coming? Guys, it's coming. Hold on. Be patient. It will be here. I'm not saying that I'm not going to do it. I am going to do it. If I said yes, I will do it, that means yes, I'm going to do it. You just have to be patient with me. I'm not, like I said before, I'm not here the whole day. And I react to multiple videos, not just one video, multiple videos. And then there'll be times when I have to export the video, from my computer to YouTube. It takes time. I don't know, maybe it doesn't take time for you guys who live in America or wherever else in the Western world, but here in South Africa, for me, it takes a bit of time for these videos to be exported into YouTube. It takes a bit of time. So I'm just asking people to be patient with me. Be patient with Farnus too much time. He has his life outside of Star Wars versus Warhammer 40K. He has his own dreams and aspirations and things he wants to do. And he can't just be stuck doing Star Wars versus Warhammer 40K simply because you demand it. It doesn't work that way. So if it's going to take him, months to do a particular episode, then it will take him months. We are only here just to support him, to give him that space if he needs it. We're not here to demand to the point where it affects him personally. We can't do that. We cannot do that.
I've already basically had to stop the I'm not going to stop it forever, but I've put on pause, on hiatus, the Darkness and Light series, in part because so few people seem interested in it, and I don't want to lose your attention. I worked very hard for that attention. I just wish I could get a little humoring for the other projects around, but even the Eldar story has relatively little engagement, so I don't pursue those things as much. And I'm going to go ahead and just try to get through the end of Axum before I move on to another project. But yeah, that's That's my whole complex going on with that. That's where my mind is with that. And, part of the reason that Axum has taken so long is because sometimes I just need to take a break and do other things that benefit me. And I'll say this, I think I can type a lot. I think I'm a pretty fast, hardcore typer. And given the amount of effort that goes into every one of these episodes, and I'm still able to keep the rest of my life in order, I think I do a pretty good job. But I can't do a much better job than what I'm doing without losing everything that I have. So I have to ask for your patience in that. I see some people complaining about the breaks that I take and the time between releases. And I wish I could do better, but it's not physically possible, and not at this stage. So that's where we're at with that. In any case, I think that wraps up the talk about the length for Axum. And now on to a different topic that people have been asking me a lot about and criticizing me about. So I'm also sometimes getting a lot of questions about the Q&As. Why no more Q&As? Where's my Q&As? I want my Q&As. And why did you stop doing them? And the reason is because a lot of the questions that can be asked have already been asked. And a lot of the questions that are being asked they necessitate spoilers. And I don't like turning any of you guys down, and I don't like engaging in that way. But it gets to the point where it's like, even answering one way or the other with a question gives spoilers. Like, even talking about it, addressing it at all, implies things and tells you things that I don't want you to know yet, that the narrative wants to take its time with and have be a surprise. And it gets undercut with a lot of the Q&A questions that I get. So when it comes to questions as to, why no more Q&As? What about the Q&As? I want Q&As. I hear you. I really do. And I wish that I could answer all your questions without spoiling everything for you. But some of you have some really good questions. Some of you have some really basic questions. And both can definitely run face first into the wall of the plot. And I really don't want to spoil things, and I don't want to do that. So Q&As I may answer very rarely in text form in the comment sections. But you have to be careful about what you're asking me, because if you're asking me things that you know are going to be spoilers, what happens to Farnus? I mean, you got to wait to see that, man. I don't want to have to answer you, just tell you that. That doesn't make, it doesn't make anybody happy. So now I'm more or less ignoring the Q&As in the comment sections and in everywhere else until unless I see Q&As that can be answered, and then I'll probably deal with them individually in a text format, because there just aren't enough of them to put into there just aren't enough of them anymore to put into the videos themselves. So that's why no more Q&As. It's run its course for the most part. We gotta wait for more of the story to come out. We gotta wait for Axum to end, because a lot of these Q&As are now getting very general or too specific, and either way they are necessitating spoilers, which I don't want anyone to get. So no spoilers for you, and therefore no more Q&As on the videos for the time being. And that's I think that's more or less what people have been criticizing me for. I hope I have answered to your satisfaction some of those criticisms and helped you come to understand what happens on this side to cause those things to happen. I apologize for any lag or dragging that you feel the story may be going through. I am doing my best, and maybe I'll go through and edit my videos and chop them up a bit to try to alleviate that problem. But going forward, I'm gonna go ahead and just try to cut down. I'm gonna go ahead and just try to bring this to a close. I see a lot of people. I mean, geez, you guys wouldn't believe some of the cursing that I get. And then followed by unsubscriptions, which
I also have something to add to this. There are people who would request a video for me to react to, and they say that they're requesting this in exchange for a subscription. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. if you want me to react to something, you don't have to tell me that, I'll give it to you in exchange for your subscription to my YouTube channel. No. Only subscribe to me if you actually like what you are watching from my YouTube channel. Don't subscribe to me because you're making it as an exchange for me to react to your video. I don't like that. And it also connects to those who say that, I subscribe to you, I've given you a request, but you still haven't watched my request. I'm going to unsubscribe from you. Like, what is that? What is that? I'm only one person. I can only do so much in one day. If your video hasn't been reacted to, it's still on the line. It's still going to be reacted to. But for you now to use a subscription as a weapon against me, to threaten me, to say that if you don't react to my request right now, I'm going to unsubscribe from your YouTube channel. I don't like that attitude. When you start doing stuff like that, I don't even communicate with you. I block you. Well, you still be able to communicate, comment on my YouTube channels, but what I'm saying is that I won't talk to you. I will ignore you. And also, there are some who request for a video for me to react to, of course, and they say that, okay, yes, I'll also subscribe to your YouTube channel. And then after I've reacted to their video, then they unsubscribe and they say bye-bye. Well, what is that? What is that? Hey? Like, there's so many things that YouTubers go through that, we don't really talk about it to those who watch our channels. So it's very nice that I'm hearing the same sort of troubles that I'm going through. A Farnus Too Much Time is also going through. At least, I have a bit of connection there with him there, in terms of being a YouTuber, because it can be fun. It can really be fun. But there are moments where it just drains you of your energy. And it's not because of the content you're creating or the content I'm reacting to. It's not because of that. It's because of people and how they respond or how they communicate with you. That's the thing that drains me the most. Especially when it's people who clearly they just don't have any sympathy or empathy or respect. They just do whatever they want. They say whatever they want. And because I cannot see what they look like, or I cannot communicate with them telephonically or even just to meet them face to face and say, hey, don't do this, don't say these things to me. They take advantage of that. They say they do whatever they want. And it hurts. It hurts.
Which, it's a little disheartening. I don't want to sound pompous or anything. I've been doing this now for about 3 years, and I thought I thought I'd hit a higher subscriber point by now. I thought I'd have a few more of you guys with me to follow me on this journey by now. Not to say that's a reason to stop or anything. I had just thought that the writing would be a bigger hit, which, presumption on my part, pure presumption. But I can't help but be a little disheartened by it sometimes. So yeah, whenever somebody yells at me and I see the subscriber count drop, it definitely hits me. I recently had somebody disagree with me very loudly over my position on Russia and Ukraine and how I shouldn't be discriminating and all these things, and just throwing a lot of things in my face and telling me that they're going to report all my videos, which luckily that resolved, and the individual user cooled off and decided not to go that route, which I appreciate. But
the fact that this person was going to such lengths because they didn't agree with your political standpoint on an international issue. The fact that this person is going to such lengths to destroy your YouTube channel because they don't like what you said. Like, if you don't like what a fan with too much time is saying about a particular conflict or a war that's happening, yes, debate with him, but do it with respect. And if you still cannot convince him to see it your way, or you cannot accept that that's his standpoint on the situation, then just leave him alone. Leave him alone. Go to someone who has your same political ideology, your same political standpoint in terms of what's happening in other countries. Leave him alone. That's why I just stay away from current events in the world. I know what's happening. You know what's happening. Just don't expect me to talk about it. Just don't expect me to talk about it, because I can assure you many of you are not going to like what I have to say about it. That's why I just stay away. I'm here for the reaction videos. I'm here to enjoy myself with the reaction videos, and that's it. The other international situations, we deal with those things in our own private capacities. Yeah.
I'm a bit of a shy person, and that kind of interaction drains me a lot. It's hard for me to describe. And I'm just a human. I'm just a person. So even if it's not most people, when 100 people, which is a fraction of the amount of people who actually watch these, even on day one, but when 100 people hit me with nasty words or hard criticism, man, I'm just a guy. I'm just one guy. That many voices on a person like me, it crushes me, man. Sometimes it just crushes me. I ask that if you have a criticism for me, that if you need to voice it, just voice it kindly, civilly. Please don't impugn the quality of the work. Not if it doesn't need to be that way, because I get some people saying some really horrific things and then following it up by saying, "Oh, but I really like your work," and it's like, man.
Yes, yes. I've also gone through something similar. Where they comment about this particular reaction video I make, and then with very disparaging, painful words, but then they're like, "Oh no, but I like your reaction channel. Keep up the good work." And I'm like, but then what was that in the beginning? Then what was that you were saying to me in the first half of your paragraph? So yeah. Hey, some people, they'll give you stress. They will just give you so much stress.
Jesus Christ, man. I mean, I wouldn't get that impression from the tirade I just got from you in the front of all this, and some people are better at it than others, and I engage with the people who are better at it than I do with the others. But remember, part of the reason why people can be canceled without even the majority of the population being against them is because everybody is just one person. Everybody is just one human social creature. And unless you're like a sociopath or a psychopath like fucking Logan Paul, you can't really ignore it. It gets you. We have a tribalistic, ingrained lizard brain need to not be the recipients of a ton of negativity and criticism from so many individual humans. Because remember, your brain doesn't understand percentages. We had to invent the concept of percentages to apply in a logical construct to the real world. Your brain just understands number of people. So I get a lot more compliments than I get criticisms. But when I get hundreds of criticisms, it doesn't matter. To my brain, to the knee-jerk physiological reaction that the human mind has to that, it just feels bad. It feels bad. Ruins my day, So please voice your criticism civilly. Please don't impugn the quality of the work. be tactful with what you say. And the worst ones are the ones that are voiced that have a point, but that are voiced mean. Like, I have people telling me about how the work should be more. That they can see why the work isn't more popular, why the things I do aren't more popular. And it's because of this, and this. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. It could be more popular. I feel that lack too, and I want to do better, but maybe cushion the blow a little bit. Know that I'm getting a bunch. Somebody nudges you on the arm, it doesn't hurt very much, but when 100 people nudge you on the arm, suddenly your arm gets sore. Please, keep that in mind. And I'll say this: there are times when I can take it better, and other times when I can't take it so well. Like, for example, right now I'm not in a very strong state, and part of the reason isn't just because of the frequency. I mean, the last like 3 or 4 releases have been just filled with criticism. But that aside, and entirely unrelated to that, I've also been feeling a lot of fiction fatigue. Not from my own fiction, but because, the Lord of the Rings, the Rings of Power came out.
Don't even get me started with that show. Don't even get me started with that show. Don't even get me started with that. Okay? Let's just stick to the movies, the first 3 movies. Let's just stick to those. Everything else is garbage. Okay, maybe that Hobbit movie, maybe. But everything else that's been made, especially by Amazon, in terms of the series, nah, just stay away. Just stay away. Nah.
And the MCU has just been so disappointing, and Star Wars, I haven't been able to watch Star Wars ever since the Book of Boba Fett.
I haven't really been able to watch Star Wars ever since... What is it called again? Star Wars The Force Awakens? I haven't really been consistent with Star Wars. I've just let it go. There would be some drips and drabs where I would watch something, especially when it comes to The Mandalorian. I did watch the first season, and I tried to watch the second season, but that interest in me, that fire in me for Star Wars has been doused out with water. I now just see it as another IP that, I can watch it maybe next year, or maybe, maybe never, or, I just don't really have that connection with it, with the present day Star Wars content. But the content from the past, the past movies, and the past games, just like Star Wars Battlefront 2, like, I still play that game. But the newer releases, I'm just not really interested. I'm not interested at all. So, yeah. Oh, yeah, Rogue One was nice, Rogue One was nice. But all these other movies and TV shows, I'm not sure about them. I hear also, what is it called again? Is it Andor? Yeah, Andor, people are saying that was nice as well. But, guys, I'm tired of the Empire now, okay? I'm tired of the Empire. I'm tired of us always going back to the same storylines with, either one Jedi or no Jedi, but then there's still the Empire, and then, there's Moff Gideon types of peoples, and I'm really tired of the Skywalker timeline that we're in right now. I want us to move away from it. I want us to go beyond, the aftermath of the fall of the Empire and the fall of the Galactic Republic, or the new Galactic Republic. I want us to go beyond that. Or better yet, let's go into the past, into the far past, where the Galactic Republic was not as strong as it is, right now. And not during the times of the golden age of the Jedi. No. Let's go back to the time when lightsabers were not the lightsabers that we know today. When they had a battery pack connecting to the lightsaber. Let's go back to that time. Let's go back to the time when hyperspace was still very dangerous. When exploring the galaxy was a dangerous situation and not this convenient, traveling experience. Let's go back to when the Sith were still existing. Yeah. Because now I'm tired. I'm tired of the same recycled information and setting for Star Wars. I'm really just tired of it.
I feel like parts of me have been killed. Not to be too melodramatic about it, but as a writer, I live inside of these stories. They are my sanctuary. They are my craft. And with the Lord of the Rings especially, my father used to read me the Lord of the Rings as a kid. It was a thing that introduced me to fiction and bred in me a love of fiction. And to watch it being so abused by people who just should know better, they should know better. I can't, I'm trying not to, I don't want to let this get to me. But, Galadriel, what they did to her, the Númenóreans, what they did to them. And then, there are things like She-Hulk, things like Thor: Love and Thunder.
Can I also add in the Halo TV show? I don't know what was happening there. I don't know. I just don't understand. I don't know. It's so easy. People were playing this game. The storyline in the game is so simple just to extract, to implement into a TV show. But instead we were given, I don't know what that was. I don't know what that Halo TV show was exactly. I don't know. It felt like some sort of nightmare, fever dream. Yeah. Money. It's money, if I spend too much time. There's just too much money involved in these TV shows. And the greed of those who invest in these TV shows is killing those, fictional stories. It's killing it. Money.
And then the little things that are interspersed into almost all the other properties. And then the Book of Boba Fett and the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, which I haven't watched very much of.
Same here. I haven't watched the Book of Boba Fett. Not really. I've seen some snippets of it on YouTube. Also, the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. I think I watched the first episode and then I just never continued.
But the clips have been so horrific. I mean, everything but the final confrontation between Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker. It's just so ill thought out, very little care taken, and oftentimes directed or produced by the people I thought I could respect in this, Dave Filoni was a producer for the Book of Boba Fett. How could he let that happen? How could he? These are stories that are so near and dear to me, and I'm watching them and living through at this current time, living through a time where they're being butchered. And what's more, they're being butchered oftentimes, not every time, but oftentimes by people who hold a political ideology that I agree with, and they're butchering both. I mean, it's like the elves are going to take our trade. The elves are going to take our jobs. One elf, Galadriel, lands on Númenor. And suddenly there is rhetoric about the elves replacing the Númenóreans, when there's just one elf in all of Númenor right now, and she wants to leave. She wants to leave. Oh, man, it's so careless. Doesn't love the story, doesn't love the world, doesn't care. Cares more about what's happening here in our world than what is happening there in their world. And that's not what you do with a story. And it's so disheartening, And, you know, I often ego trip a little bit and think, oh, I can write these stories better than them. And maybe I can't, you know. I get my fair amount of criticism too. So maybe I'm not all I'm cracked up to be. But it just feels like, even if not me, there should be better writers for these things. You know, there should be better writers that just, you know, you can put your political ideology into a work. You can. Just do it with some nuance. Do it with some subtlety. Do it with some love for the world that you're talking about and putting it into. But there just doesn't seem to be any of that anymore. And I feel like, I don't know, like parts of my life die every time this happens. And I want to watch Andor, but I can't bring myself to do it, even though I know it's good. Too much of me that loved Star Wars has been abused and just taken advantage of by the Disney corporate structure and their ridiculous ideology of making the things the way they do. And it just...
That's why, you know, I don't really watch our, you know, like in our time period of science fiction TV shows. I don't really watch them. I just go all the way back to the 90s. You know, the 90s, the early 2000s. That's the height of science fiction. The height of science fiction entertainment. You know, when you think about Battlestar Galactica, when you think about the Star Trek, you know, collection of TV series, when you think about Stargate SG-1, Stargate Atlantis, Stargate Universe, although that one died a very early death, it didn't really complete, you know, it didn't really have an enjoyment of seasons like the other Stargates. But, you know, going back to those TV shows, and there was another one called Defiance. I used to watch that one as well. And the X-Files. And what was it called again? The Outer Limits. You know, TV shows that gripped me. I'm going back to those ones. I'm not really watching our modern day science fiction shows because they're either too short, that there is lack of passion in them, and there's too much money involved to the point where, yeah, it looks fancy, it looks nice, but there's no substance. There's no substance at all. Nothing really that keeps me wanting more of it. No. So I just go back to the past, back to times when, you know, TV shows were created by people who had a passion for science fiction, and not just famous directors or famous actors. You know, putting in their, you know, ideas or pushing their ideas into science fiction work, and it comes out looking like some sort of monster. Yeah.
It just hurts me, and I am in the middle of that weakness. The whole reason I bring this up is just to tell you that I'm in the middle of that. That's happening to me while everything else is happening to me. And sometimes I just feel like I should just let it all go. Let go of Star Wars, even let go of Warhammer. Just let it go and do my own thing, and just unabashedly do my own thing, and let those things die. Like, straight up take Kylo Ren's advice and let them die. You know, he's like, let it die, kill it if you have to. And it's like, I don't even have to kill it. I'm watching other people kill it. I'm watching other people murder the love of my craft. And it's just a lot weighing down at me at the same time. I'm glad that I finally moved, because it has really helped me stabilize and get to a place where I'm trying to get to. But, you know, moving to a place can only do so much.
And I think where you've moved, I'm assuming this is the place. It looks very nice, really. It looks very private and secluded, you know, with these hills that you're going up and down on. Yeah, it looks very nice. Forested area.
I'm a writer, and I live in a world where all of my favorite properties and legacy characters are being written by people who just don't care about the story or the characters, don't love them. You know, I mean, even Chris Hemsworth, who plays Thor, is straight up saying that he's not going to come back to Thor if he has to work with Taika Waititi again because of what Taika Waititi did to him, you know, sexually objectified him, abused of his character, degraded Thor down to a complete and total buffoon.
I don't know anything about this, but wow. Okay.
And that's not right. People shouldn't be allowed to do that, you know? It's crazy because it just feels like all of these things are in the hands of these mindless capitalists who are then in turn handing it off to people who hate the work, who hate it, who hate the Lord of the Rings, who hate Star Wars. And then they destroy it. And just some of us like me, that's like a part of my soul, a part of who makes me, a part of my identity, of who I am, being put into the ground. And sometimes I feel like the only way to rebuild is just to let it all go, which is not something you want to hear from the guy writing the Star Wars versus Warhammer 40K fan fiction. You know, it's not something that I want to feel. I wanted to be more hyped than ever. You know, I remember the early days of things. I remember when Bad Batch first came out, and I saw not Bad Batch. I remember when season 8 of the Clone Wars came out, and yeah, you know, some of Ahsoka's parts were weak because she was with these characters that were really annoying or unnecessary, just, you know, whatever. But the parts with Mandalore, and then when we discovered what happened to Echo, Echo is a servitor. I freaked the fuck out about that. You know, look at the armor that the Bad Batch is wearing. It has skulls and shit on it. It's just so cool. It's so Imperial adjacent, and I loved the shit out of that stuff. And I remember being so excited. I remember watching Rogue One and loving almost every instance of it. I remember watching Solo and still liking the shit, loving the fuck out of it.
I only watched Solo once. It was okay, but not really something that is repeatable for me. Yeah, it was okay.
Even the SJW droid, which I think works. It's not an example of an injection of politics where it doesn't belong. That shit can be 100% canon. That shit can be it makes 100% sense why that would happen. And they played it for a joke, so people need to chill the fuck out about the SJW droid. And this is coming from a guy who vehemently hates SJWs. But then it all just continued sloping down, and, you know, we get little islands like the Mandalorian, but the good the Mandalorian does is not as good as the bad that the Book of Boba Fett does, and the bad that the Obi-Wan Kenobi show does. Those things, taking legacy characters, butchering them in front of us, is like watching a family member being executed every fucking day. And I really can't handle it, you know. I can't handle it. I can't. And I have so much more to say about that, but I'll leave it there because I don't want to fill up the entire time just talking about that. But the only reason I bring it up is because that weighs on me. It weighs on me in a way you can't imagine. Or maybe you can, but if you do, I expect you have sympathy. And it's just happening all at the same time, you know. At the same time, you know, I get these bouts of uncertainty, of extreme uncertainty. You know, am I good enough to do this? Am I carrying through the way I should? Should I just stop or change my plan, rewrite this, rewrite that? And, you know, I'm trying to keep it on a schedule, which means that there's a deadline for me to decide a lot of these things. And that deadline only leaves me feeling more unsure. Fuck, the deadline passed. Fuck, I released this. And is it any good? Is it any bad? Did I do right? Did I do wrong? Whatever the case may be, I can't take it back anymore. It just leaves me feeling with this great amount of uncertainty that is on top of everything else. And it can just make it hard sometimes, just really hard to keep going with this. And not to put too fine a point on it, it wouldn't be the same if I was doing this for a job, because at the end of the day I could look back at what I've done and think I've profited from this. But you know, I've barely broken even on the art. Really, I have. I love my Patreon supporters, but there's like a handful of them, and they can't support everything that I do. And I'm extremely grateful, because at the very least it means that I can make a little bit more art now, but not like I used to when I had saved up for a few years. And I'm sorry for rambling. I just feel sometimes this crippling uncertainty, and I can usually push entirely past it. I can dominate it. I can completely control it. But so many of my pillars have been drilled into in recent years that it's become harder and harder, is what I mean to say. And, you know, some people think that I should be working with, you know, like, oh, why don't you contact 40K Theories? Why don't you contact Major Kill or Voldemort? And I want to. I want to. But look at my channel. You know, I'm barely over 8,000 subs. And look at their channels. They're gigantic. You know, they're the kings of this half of the YouTube industry, you know. They're the lords, and I'm a peasant. I'm just not confident enough to go before them and ask anything. I don't even know what I would ask, you know, like do they want to voice something, or do they want me to work a little with them? I wouldn't mind, you know, if Major Kill or Voldemort wanted me to ghost write some things for them, and get some credit maybe in their videos. That would be absolutely incredible. But
when you get that confidence after too much time, do it. I'm not going to be here to say just do it. You know, force. I'm not going to force you to do it. No, when you are confident in yourself, when you believe that, okay, let me try, do it. Whenever that time comes, just do it. Doesn't have to be now, doesn't have to be tomorrow. Just do it when you feel that, okay, I think I can try.
But I just don't have that kind of confidence, not when I'm so low on the scale, so light on the scale, so low on the ladder. I wanted to contact them once I had at least 10,000 subscribers, you know, and be like, hey, I'm a tiny channel, but I think I can do some good things and maybe collaborate with you. But I don't even know if what I'm doing is that impressive. You know, it's important not to get locked in your own head. It's important not to believe your own hype or to breathe in your own dust. And at the end of the day, what am I? I'm a glorified fan fiction writer. You know, that's part of the reason why sometimes I feel like I just need to stop everything and just focus on my original works, because if I don't, then will I ever be more? Will I ever be more than a glorified fan fiction writer? What does that lead to? What will people remember me for? Being the guy who wrote a fan fiction. And that doesn't feel good. You know, I want my own projects to succeed, but sometimes, not even sometimes, most of the time, I just put more effort into this when it comes to the free time that I have to spend. And maybe that has to change, you know. Maybe I should go back to Darkness and Light more. Do my original works more. I just don't want to lose you. I don't want to lose this audience. I've worked for 3 years to gain these 8,000 subscribers, you know, to gain your eyes on this video. If you're even one of the people who's going to watch the after talk and even get this far down. And it's scary for me to think about switching gears and doing something else. You know, I try to do a few reaction videos.
You know, in terms of that, you know, yes, for me as well, it was a bit scary when I started doing gameplay, because I'm currently doing gameplay for Half-Life, and, you know, I was a bit worried that, you know, people are mainly on my channel for my reaction videos, and here I am now switching to gameplay as well, Half-Life gameplay in particular, and yeah, no, you know, in the beginning, it was very quiet. It was very, very quiet in the comment section. Very quiet, you know, in terms of liking my videos. And I get it. You know, the people that I have on my YouTube channel are mainly there for watching my reaction videos. But I continue to persevere in creating more gameplay videos. And you know, over time, it has started to gain momentum in terms of viewers, you know, and also those who comment. I have to thank people like George, who are talking to me, who are giving me tips, and then also Anime and Smile, who's also, visiting my gameplay reactions here and there. Not gameplay reactions, but gameplay to Half-Life. She's there, watching my gameplays as well. So yeah, there are people out there who will take interest, who will, give the time in watching your content. And I just have to tell Farnus too much time to not give up. If you want to start reaction videos on your YouTube channel, then do so. Yes, it's going to be very quiet for the first 2 or 3 weeks, maybe even a month. It's going to be quiet, but if you continue doing it and you just gain that momentum and consistency in your new project, I'm sure people are going to take notice of it. Yeah, because when I started with my reaction channel, it was also very quiet, to the point where I even thought that, okay, maybe I should stop. But I just continued to post reaction videos, and then eventually, over time, people started to notice, and they would start talking with me, and I immediately responded to them, and it created and facilitated that connection. So it takes time. Yeah.
And the reaction videos got a horrible reception. I got people cursing me out for doing that. People freaked out that I was going to stop doing Star Wars versus Warhammer 40K. And in general, they just have terrible view counts. And let me tell you something. YouTube is not my friend. I joke about it and how, my videos get stopped sometimes. But, for example, in this last video on literally the last video just before this one with Farnus' speech, it was my number one video. Out of the last 10 videos I was doing, was the number one, and then suddenly YouTube took away half my views and destroyed the visibility of it. And I didn't get a copyright strike or anything. I don't know what happened, but I guess that a lot of people were watching Farnus' speech over and over again, and YouTube decided that must be bots and removed all those views and took away my larger visibility. And
damn. And there's no way to appeal that. Yeah, there is no way to appeal that, I think. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I watched everything that I had worked for that video, that boost that I'm expecting after I get, a new video out. I just watched it die before Monday was done. And that is crippling to me sometimes, feeling like the system I'm working on and sometimes working for is so biased against me and has so little faith that I can do anything. That if my video does particularly well, it must be bots, and then chops it down. And listen, I do not use bots. I can fucking afford to even. And it I don't know. It just it doesn't defeat me, but it weakens me. It's blow after blow with that kind of thing. So I want to work with these bigger creators, but I also want to get to a size that is at least somewhat respectable before I do that, because otherwise I don't even know what I could offer them. And again, I'm basically just a glorified fan fiction writer. What could I really offer channels that big and that successful? Again, sometimes I feel like I should just work on my original content, but I'm just so afraid of having done all of this for nothing. And of course, obviously, I want to finish. I didn't begin this journey. I didn't start writing this with 0 subscribers because I didn't have an innate, powerful impetus to get this done. It's just that sometimes, day by day, it feels like there's less and less of a reason to. And I don't know. I'm sorry to put all of this on you. Honestly, half of this is just a vent.
It's okay. It's okay. Some of us need to vent, especially when we are having these stressful situations. It's perfectly fine. Just like Farnus, just let it all out. Let it all out. Let it all out. It's okay.
To tell somebody how this feels, just to tell somebody what I feel like. But in any case,
Wait, did you leave the key on the lock? Let's go back. I've had too much time. You just leave the key on the lock like that?
And I don't know. I'm sorry to put all of this on you. Honestly, half of this is just a vent.
Oh, okay, you didn't. Sorry. I thought you left the key on the lock. I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
To tell somebody how this feels. Just to tell somebody what I feel like. But in any case, I've definitely eaten enough of your time by now. I'll go ahead and put this down here and say, have a great weekend. Have a great day. Go visit the people you love. Remember what's really important. Don't let things get you down. And until next time, I'll see you with the next episode. Goodbye.
Alright guys, that is it with Star Wars vs. Warhammer 40K After Talk, episode 41 After Talk, made on the A Fan With Too Much Time YouTube channel. This After Talk was necessary. Not necessarily for us, the viewers, but for him. You know, he had things to, to talk about. He had situations and problems that he had to vent out. And it's good that he got this opportunity to do it. And, you know, it's many of the things that he's talking about is something that I'm also experiencing when it comes to YouTube. Because I like YouTube. I like the process of making my reaction videos. You know, I like the process of posting my YouTube videos on my YouTube channel, and, you know, seeing myself on my YouTube channel and seeing other people also seeing me on my YouTube channel and commenting on my YouTube channel. But, you know, there are people out there that just suck out that energy from you. You know, I understand that you might have a disagreement on what we are doing or how we are doing it, but when you respond to us, do it with respect. Just do it with respect. There's no need for you to be a bully. There's no need for you to say such horrible, terrible words to us. We are not machines. We have emotions. We feel things. And sometimes I wonder, these people who say these terrible things to YouTubers, do they truly understand what they are doing? I mean, this is how some channels die. It's not because of the work that they're doing. It's because of the people who comment on their work. People just give up. They tell themselves that no, there's no point to it anymore, because no one is taking interest, or everybody is saying bad things to me. So what's the point of me continuing with my YouTube channel? I just wish some people could understand that yes, if you have problems, if you have criticism to comment, do so, but do it with respect. That's all we're asking. And Farnus was also discussing about his justification or his rationale when it comes to near human, in terms of Ahsoka and her species, her kind. And, you know, he was also talking about Farnus and his service record, and how he had come to experience or to witness many of the things that has happened while he was on tour with his regiment, going to different planets and to a ship that was being controlled by the Dark Eldar, and his experience in that situation as well. And also the fact that, you know, there's some storylines pertaining to Anakin that are still going to come ahead. We just have to be patient, and, you know, we will get them as well. He's still focusing on Axum right now. And yeah, also, again, the YouTube ecosystem problems that he's facing as a YouTuber. Really, this is something that he needed to let go of. This is something that he needed to talk about, and I'm glad that I got to hear it from him. Like I said before, I'm also glad that I'm not the only one who's going through such stressful situations with people who comment on our YouTube videos. He's also experiencing something similar, so yeah, I can find a bit of strength in that. He is still pushing forward, I am still pushing forward, and that's good. That's really, really, really good. But yeah, guys, that is it with the after talk, and that is it with episode 41, Mortal Precipices part 1, and part 2 is next. You'll probably see the video somewhere at the top right here. Remember, if you want to check out the original videos as well as FN with Too Much Time's YouTube channel, the links are going to be in the description below. If you like my reaction, please give it a like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Click on the notification bell if you want to be up to date with my latest videos. And thanks again to FN with Too Much Time for such entertaining work and also informative work in terms of the Star Wars universe, the Warhammer universe, and also your own experience with YouTube. Yes, it's been very good to hear, your side of things as well. And yeah, I really did enjoy this. Thank you. Wow, 3 hours. 3 hours. Okay, guys, that's it. Bye-bye.